pecuniary interest to disclose?
Anyone?
I don't know.
Okay, hearing none. We'll let the record show. I should also announce to you, I guess, at this point that the meeting is in fact being recorded. First item we have is to approve the agenda. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by,
I'll second Councillor McEwen.
thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the only thing I see is it seems like when we finish answering all the questions, we're going to come out of the committee of the whole and council debate things. But I see at the end, there's correspondence, which I think is Mr. Hickey's letter, but I don't have it right here. Is that correct?
That is correct. And it is there because we had made a commitment to him, as you recall, that when the subject was up for discussion, we would include it as correspondence, but it'll come up not where there's no discussion under correspondence. It'll come up in the course of the discussion. So
Okay, thank you.
all right. Any other comments on the agenda? Anyone objecting? Okay, thank you. If not, that's approved. And the third step is to move into the committee of the whole so that we can have discussion without a motion on the floor. And I've got 6:39 p.m. So could I get a mover and seconder to go into committee of the whole, please?
I'll move. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Wood, seconded by,
I'll second.
thank you, Councillor Gorham
I'll
Matthews.
second.
I got you, thank you. Any discussion? If there's no objection, I will declare that motion carried. So now that we're in committee of the whole, what I'd like to do is just let you know how this part of the meeting is going to work and give you a few instructions, if you don't mind. First of all, as we always do with meetings like this, I would ask that speakers address the chair, not any other counselor, or not other members of the public who have been spoken. Please direct your comments and questions to the chair. Please be respectful. We don't want any personal or defamatory or other offensive comments to be on the record. Please keep your microphone muted and your camera turned off at all times except when you're speaking. If you are on a telephone with audio only, so you're not on a computer, you can mute your microphone on the phone by, if it's a cell phone, it has a mute button, you can use that to mute and unmute, or you can use *6 to toggle mute and unmute on and off on your microphone. To indicate that you wish to speak, we do have a very large list of participants, so in order to keep track of who wants to speak or to ask a question, there is a facility for those of you who have Zoom up on your screen. There is a button along the bottom of the Zoom screen that says reactions. And if you click on that reactions button, you will see it comes up with some emoticons. They are, and one of them is raise hand. And if you press that, it will then show that your hand is raised on the participants list, and that's how I will know that you want to speak. If you're on a telephone, the way you do that same thing is by typing in *9. And that will cause your hand symbol to show up. So once you have been recognized by the chair, you may unmute your microphone, start your video if you want, if you have video and you want to, and speak. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak or ask your question. And I will give you a 2.5 minute warning. So when you're at 2.5 minutes, if you're still going, once you've finished speaking, I would ask you to mute your microphone and turn off your camera, so that we don't have a whole lot of extra. We don't want to pick up any background noise or see a whole lot of faces on the screen of people who are not actually speaking. Just a couple of suggestions, because there are such a large number of people who want to speak. At least I assume many of you want to speak. If somebody else has already said what you wanted to say, don't feel that you need to use up the whole 3 minutes. You can simply say, I support the comments made about such and such. We're going to try and get through this, and we're going to try and give everybody who wants to speak an opportunity to speak. At some point in time, though, before as we get on a bit, we will have to come out of committee of the whole. And once we do that, council will deliberate motions. And at that point, the members of the public will not participate in debate and will carry through with the rest of the meeting. This is the only item that's on the agenda, so we have, I guess, basically until curfew. So with those comments, we'll try to go ahead with the meeting. In the public part of the meeting, if you have questions, one or more of us will try on council. We'll try to answer them as best we can. If you have comments, we'll listen to them and maybe respond to them or maybe not. But we'll just kind of see how the discussion goes. So with that, I'm going to take a look at the list that I have. And I do see a few hands that are up already, so I will try to work down those. Please, by the way, when you finish speaking, make sure to put your hand down. Leaving it up won't get you a second turn. So the first one that I see on the list is Charles Larose. Charles, if you'd like to unmute yourself, and if you want to show us your picture, fine. If not, just go ahead and speak.
Hello, my name is Charles Larose. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I was raised in a family, and we've raised our own family where we had a balance of needs and wants. So I have a question for you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to each councillor, and would expect an answer of how they see it. And the question is, do you identify the pool project as a want or a need for Whitestone ratepayers, and explain why?
Okay, I'll open it to. Thank you for your question. I will open it to answers from councilors who wish to answer. You don't have to, but
I could interrupt you real quick just for 1 second. I keep getting a message that says my internet connection is unstable. My bandwidth is too low.
Shut your picture off. It'll help.
Don't want to miss what anyone's been saying.
I'll answer that,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if someone wants started.
Go ahead, Councillor Gore Matthews.
Sure. Yeah, so I identify the wellness center as a need in the community. I think of it as an investment in wellness rather than illness. Anything like this helps to support healthy families and healthy growth in the community, provides opportunities for rural areas where people have trouble meeting in places to have a safe place to meet and interact with each other.
Okay, thank you. As another councillor wants to answer,
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lamb.
go ahead.
I don't see the pool as a need. I see it as a want by people, by some people. I do see other things as, healthcare and the nurses station, our infrastructure, our roads, things like that are certainly needs to all of us. And I think they're in a separate category, and I don't see a pool in the same category as those. So definitely my answer would be that this pool is a want.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to respond?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I see it as a need and a want in many respects. The need is social economic and providing extra opportunities and options for all ratepayers, seasonal and year rounders. The want aspect of it, I guess we want lots of things. Sometimes we can't have them. This has been a want for a very long time for the whole region ultimately. So I don't know what else I can say other than certainly the want isn't only Prairie Sound like it's labeled as in a lot of respects. Prairie Sound just happens to be the location where there's a hub of the community and a good place to put it, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know what I could say other than we could go on this for a long time about the needs and wants of it, but that's my opinion on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Councillor Woods.
Go ahead.
I'm missing a lot of what everyone's saying here. With my bandwidth issue, I don't know if I'd be better off calling in on the phone, but I would like to answer Mr. Larose's question. To me, as far as a want or a need, I could see this as a want for some in our municipality. I don't see it as a want for the majority of our ratepayers in the municipality, but I would have to disagree with anybody that thinks that this is an absolute need for Whitestone.
Okay, thank you. Well, I don't want to prolong this too much, but I'll simply make the comment that I believe that it is a need. It's certainly not the only need. It's particularly a need for West Prairie Sound in the sense that we are at a disadvantage with respect to the Highway 11 corridor, the other side of our district, which has numbers of such facilities. But as a practical matter, it's not possible for people who want to use this facility and in some cases need to use it to access it conveniently. It's probably an hour and a half drive to the nearest place for most people in West Prairie Sound. So we recognize, of course, that lots of people in Whitestone itself do not see themselves using it. That's probably true of many of the other municipalities too, but overall for our region, it's I see it as a need and an important opportunity. So anyway, thanks for your question.
Thank you for the answers.
I'd like to move on next if I can. Next person I see on the list is Marcella Scholdes. Marcella, if you'd like to Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Conry. I'm sorry I will not be using video. My bandwidth is unstable. But thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for the opportunity to speak. Let me introduce myself. I'm Marcella Schuldeis. My husband John and I have owned a property in Whitestone for over 10 years. For 3 years now, 3 years ago I retired. We now live full-time in Dunchurch. In my former life, I was a health policy advisor and health economist. Some of you may know me as the volunteer chair of the Nursing Stations Community Advisory Committee. I wish to express my unqualified support for the proposed pool and wellness center. In my view, the role of municipal government is to provide the infrastructure required for a healthy and thriving community. The investments the municipality makes should be for the greater good of the residents, but that doesn't mean that every investment must directly benefit every ratepayer. I do not use the public dock and the new park at the town's waterfront, but I did donate to it because I believe many in our community will benefit from it. I read digital books and have rarely stepped foot into our library, but I do donate to it because our library brings so many tangible benefits to so much of our community. I do not use the nursing station, but I volunteer a lot of hours to our advisory committee, and more recently I've donated both time and money to the proposed expansion. I do this because so many members of our community benefit from having this gem in our town. I have no family member in a long-term care home, but I still endorse our council's involvement in the ownership and management of Belvedere Heights long-term care in Parry Sound. Recreational and wellness facilities are a critical element of any successful municipal investment strategy. Indeed, our federal government appears to agree, as it may be willing to contribute a significant part of the capital. Even though you personally may not intend to use the proposed center, it is still a sound and overdue investment for the area. Our residents, children, adults, seniors will all benefit from the amenities it will provide to build and sustain our health and wellness. We don't live in Parry Sound, but it's only a short drive away. We shop there, we get groceries there, our friends bowl and play golf there. We enjoy dinner and a show at the Stocky Center. So why is it a stretch to believe we would go there to swim or take a class? In the city, my husband and I often drove our kids 20 to 30 minutes in city traffic to dance classes, baseball games, and sports camps. I do understand the fear of escalating capital and operating costs. We have a small ratepayer base and many competing projects, but I would propose there are less drastic ways to manage these risks than to turn our backs completely on a facility that has the potential to bring so much good to our communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcella. Next on the list, the name I see is Lori. I don't see your last name, Lori, but if you would like to go ahead, please, and tell us your last name.
Hello, my name is Lori Bedford, and I have a cottage on Whitestone Lake, and several points that I'd like to discuss or to point out. So the first thing I did was I looked at the official plan of Whitestone today and discovered that we have 416, according to the official plan, 416 permanent homes and 1,317 temporary or cottage homes. That's a ratio of almost 25 to 75%. So I would suggest that approximately 75% of the homes or the ratepayers in Whitestone are of a cottage nature and would thereby probably likely use their lake for swimming as opposed to driving to Parry Sound to have a swim. Also, the second point I'd like to do is, or to indicate, is that I called the school today, and the Whitestone School has 50 students maximum. And again, I would suggest that at the maximum, that is probably the base that this swimming pool would be pulling from, and that would be the entire school of 50 students. The other point I'd like to make is that if you sort of take those two factors into consideration, you might be looking at somewhere less than 100 people that would utilize that facility, probably quite a bit more. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that I also work for a municipality, so I wanted to point out the subsidization rates for recreation facilities, and they are very high. So the municipality I work for has a swimming pool as well. And we have an outdoor swimming pool, so it's not a full comparison. But I'll tell you that we subsidize that swimming pool by over 600%. So the expenses that we incur on that outdoor swimming pool are $600,000 a year. And that's only for 2.5 months out of the entire year. If people aren't comfortable with that as a ratio, I'd like to point out that all recreation facilities are highly subsidized. So ice rinks our ice rink is subsidized by more than 200%, and a fitness center at the most profitable is subsidized by still more than 100%. The other comment that I'd like to make is more in the financial areas. So the capital investment for this project is $32 million. And you can't just invest in anything capital. The province has put a significant emphasis on something called asset management, which means when you invest in a capital item, you need to prepare to finance the replacement and the ongoing support of the capital asset.
You have half a minute left.
Okay. If you were to assume that that pool had a life of 30 years, you would need to put in $1.5 million a year just to support the replacement of that pool. So that adds as well to your operating costs. So when you take the subsidization, I think the operating costs have been understated. So I think the overall cost of this swimming pool would tend to be more than 10% per year of increased taxes to a tax base that primarily is not going to use this facility. But just to end.
Okay, I'm sorry, your time is, you've gone over the 3 minutes, Lori. I'm sorry.
I just want to say I support the hybrid model, and I'd like to have a conversation about that, or not myself, but later.
Okay, thank you very much.
A number of people are reporting they can't get in on the call. Have you limited it to 100 people?
No, I don't believe so.
It is limited to 100 people. Everybody after that says they're unable to attend.
Not. Well.
Mr. Mayor, Joe Lamb, I've received 2 or 3 calls that I've declined from people that I think probably can't get in, but I'm guessing, I don't know any other reason they would call me.
Well,
It suggests that they phone in. There's numbers to phone in.
I don't think it matters. We're at 99 people right now, including the phone in.
Well, I guess our hosts can perhaps investigate this a little bit and see if there is some. I'm not aware. I see the number sitting at 99, but I'm not. There shouldn't be any limit on people getting in, to my knowledge.
The limit was likely set up when the meeting was originally scheduled. So maybe just the next time, if there's a subsequent one, obviously there's a lot of interest. We can have someone take a look at that to make sure that there's no maximum, or at least a higher maximum.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to keep going. Unfortunately, I don't have any way of checking it myself from here, but I'm sure our host is listening and has seen has heard the comments. Next, I have on the list Janice. Again, I don't have a surname, Janice, but if you'd like to go ahead, please.
Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt just for one quick second.
Go ahead, Councillor Woods.
I'm missing 3/4 of what everyone's saying. Would it be okay if I deleted from this video call and tried to call in on my phone, just so I don't miss what people are trying to say and the questions that they're asking?
Mr. Woods, I'd be very careful with that. You should leave your space because you may not get back in. I would suggest that you call the number, and in the upper left-hand corner beside the recording button, you'll see meeting info. You will have a participant ID, and hopefully it'll allow you to enter that and join with your phone.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to lose you, Brian, but why don't you take that suggestion? Just see if you can call in separately on your phone and find out if you can get in.
I'm gonna try that right now.
This is Dana. Sorry to interrupt the meeting. We can't seem to raise our hand. I can only clap or.
Okay, folks, could you mute yourself if you're not, well, everybody should mute themselves except these people that are having difficulties. Dana, I'll try and answer your question. Do you see a button on the bottom row of buttons towards the right that says reactions?
That doesn't work, Mr. Mayor. It's on the far right. That's where you need to raise your hand.
It's under participants.
It's not on the bottom. It's on the far right.
Okay, that means that you have an older version of Zoom, I'm guessing, of the Zoom software. If you might find it underneath participants. When we tested this, we did not find, that's where we thought it would be, but we didn't find it except on the host screen, which is a different version of the software. So I don't know.
Okay, I see it now. You're
if
right.
you see it underneath participants, then you can click it there.
Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Okay. So let me see where, if I can see Brian Woods again. I don't want him to miss them. My apologies for the delay, folks. Councillor Wood seems to have dropped off the. Councillor Lamb, you can turn your video off.
Somehow I got my hand up. I don't know why. I could turn my video off.
I just wondered if you knew it was on. That's
No, I know it's on. I'm just trying to figure out why my hand's up. But anyway, that's okay. Ignore my hand up.
I'm just going to try and get in touch with our host and see if I can.
Who's hosting this?
See if we can get Councillor Woods admitted.
Mr. Mayor, who is the host?
Joe, it's Judith May from the.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I don't think we've even hit the 100% person limit, so I'm not sure why he can't get back in.
Would it work if
I just got a message from Brian that he can hear us, but we can't hear him.
Well, that might be because he's coming under a phone number and the host has muted the phone numbers. So you should privately ask for what his number is and see if the host can unmute him. I spend far too much time in Zoom every day, so this is nothing new for me.
Yeah, this is new.
If you look at the participants, if you know his number, you can see it. And if you're a host, you'd just be able to say unmute.
Hello? Can anybody hear me now? It's Councillor Woods.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. We're
Sorry about that.
glad you made it back. Sorry about that, but we waited for you. So I'm going to go back to the meeting. To the best of our knowledge, there's nothing stopping people from. Shouldn't be anything stopping people from getting on. There's nobody sitting in the waiting room asking to be admitted at this point. So, so the next. I'm sorry, there was somebody I saw on the list who seems to have gone off. But anyway, the next one that I'm showing. Hang on a minute here and just make sure this list looks different than it did a minute ago. But anyway, all right, well, we'll keep going. The next person that I see on the list is Juliet Terry. So Juliet, if you want to go ahead, please.
Thank you for listening to my question. There was an attempt to organize public questions to streamline the meeting and maintain a sense of order. So we're trying to work with you. And the question that I got from the group is addressed to the chair, and whoever can best answer it would be just fine. From the question, Mayor Comrie has suggested that upper limits on capital and operating deficiencies can be set.
Can't hear it.
And other, sorry?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, it's a bit of a statement and then a question, if you don't mind. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
folks. Again, I have to remind you, all of the microphones should be muted. Everybody, including councillors, if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. Go ahead, Juliet.
Okay, I'll continue. It was suggested that there could be upper limits placed on capital and operating deficits. And then other elected representatives have indicated that the proposal will be changed because of flaws that are in it. The statement is that this possibility is not mentioned in the joint municipal board agreement. So there is a concern that changes could constitute a misrepresentation in the grant application process, which should render the application invalid, given that adjustments are needed in the funding formula, the expected capital and operating costs, and potentially the number of participating municipalities. So question one would be, is the committee preparing post-award amendments that will comply with the grant application process? I'll let you sit on that one for a sec, and I'll continue just to get question two out of the way. I'm a nervous speaker. So also, given that the application was for a specific capital cost, which is possibly short of more recent expectations, and I assume that if the government, if approved, the government will give what was requested, what is the committee planning to do about the increased debt load from capital requirements distribution among the 7 municipalities, given that several are questioning the debt load from the original presentation?
Okay, thank you. Probably those are, I might be the person to make the best stab at doing at answering the questions. The first one is about whether changes to the Joint Services Board agreement would affect anything in terms of the grant. I suggest that is not the case. To the best of my knowledge, that is a matter to be sorted out amongst the funding part of the government itself. Is not really all that concerned about how the any financial burden associated with the capital cost, extra money that's required to build it, or the operating cost is shared. They made it very clear that and the governance of the facility and so on are up to the proponents to sort out. So I don't anticipate that that's that there's really any concern about that. If you're asking the question, what are other municipalities, or maybe the question is, why are other municipalities don't seem to be concerned about the possibility of these overruns? I would suggest to you that that's probably not that they're not concerned, but at this particular stage of the game, they don't have any more information to address concerns of that sort. I can say that in the discussions that I was a party to in the WCPC, there was a pretty clear sense of all of the participants that they wanted to treat the $32 million as an upset limit, and that if in fact it turned out as detailed design progressed and so on, that the costs were going to be higher than that, that they would start looking at things that could be removed from the project to lower the cost. In other words, they were not, nobody seemed to have any appetite for the cost to grow, the total budget to grow beyond that 32 million. So, but that's I mean, I guess I can't speak for them in the same way that they can't speak for Whitestone as to what they would do in those particular situations, but that's my sense of it. Okay. All right.
Call me back.
Yes,
Okay.
except it goes back to the formula, which might have to be changed. We hope it gets changed. But if what is required is more than what the government's going to give you so much based on what you've asked for, and we all know the costs are going to be higher, so the debt load in the end will be more. I guess I'm speaking to being responsible for 6.1% of God knows what and wherever it goes. The way it's written, it's rather frightening.
All right. Well, I think maybe if you wait till a little bit later on and then we get actually discussing the proposal that is going to come up for discussion later on is not an open-ended does not involve an open-ended commitment by the municipality of Whitestone. So if I could ask, maybe we'll just hold that thought and perhaps you'll get an answer to it later on.
That's what I was hoping to hear. Thank you very much, Mayor Comrie. So
now I'm looking back at my list and I see Janice is on again at the top of the speakers list. And you didn't get to speak before, Janice, did you?
No, I didn't. Can you hear me,
yes.
Mayor Comrie?
Would you
okay, great.
Go ahead, please.
Just so you know, it's Janice Bray. I'm sorry, I use Zoom quite a bit and I just have my first name on, so it didn't allow me to put my last name on when I came in. anyways, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. I will not dwell on the things that Michelle did because I'm in full support and fully support everything that she said. We do need to dwell on thinking about wellness in our community and in our region. I guess the other thing I wanted to say is that I'm concerned about the consequences of us not joining in with our fellow West Parry Sound municipalities. My 13 years working with municipal affairs and housing has taught me that they look for collaborations and they like to see municipalities working together. They like to see collaborations in how things are going to work so that more people are benefiting, but it's also spread out over a larger group. So my concern is that if we don't look 10, 15 years down the road, or even 5 years down the road, because I know how the funding comes out with for these kinds of things, that if we are perceived by our fellow municipalities in West Parry Sound as being a non-player, where are we going to end up? Are we going to end up as this middle no man's land that isn't a participant in things that are important for the region? I think that as municipal councillors, I'm hoping that you're looking at that. You're thinking about what's the benefit for the whole region, and that you're looking at where we see ourselves down the road in 5 to 10, 15 years. The other thing I wanted to mention was that we are the bedroom community for Parry Sound. A lot of people do commute from here to work in Parry Sound. We have children here. We have high school students that travel every day on the bus to Parry Sound. So this would be a real asset to our community. And we've known that for many years, but we've never had the opportunity like we do now with the possibility of this funding. I trust you as council that you will make sure that all of the necessary checks and balances are in place. We're at a really beginning stage. So this isn't really like getting into a collaboration isn't actually a commitment yet, but it's looking at trying to see how it would work. And I guess the last thing I will leave with you is that my parents had to move from this district because this district didn't have anything for them, what they were looking for. They moved to Muskoka. And my mother at 84 joined the pool complex, the center in Huntsville, and started swimming lessons. So I say to everybody, you never know when you might need it. You never know when physio might say that pool exercises might be the best thing for you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's see who we have next. I believe is Cheryl Costigan. Cheryl, are you?
You skipped over a phone number. There's a 416.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't see the hands sitting on that one.
Sorry, so it's not me?
Well, Cheryl, go ahead and I'll come back and pick up the phone number since we've got you on now.
Okay, I guess I just have a bit of a comment to make. And that is having belonged to fitness clubs for the last 40 years, I can tell you that this is every fitness club's model. Sign up as many people as you can to use the facility. They will use it for the month of January and then pay for the rest of the year, but not participate in it. I can see it every January when I'm at the club. It's packed and then membership drops off, but they pay for it for the whole year. And I'm afraid this is what's going to happen for Whitestone. As I'm sure most of you realize that we have a lot of important infrastructure projects that we need for Whitestone. And one of them is broadband internet, as you can see from this meeting. Should we consider improvements such as internet, seasonal roads, drinking water, healthcare? These should be very important projects as well that I think that we should be funded. And I think that this project is very important for the people of Parry Sound, but I can tell you categorically from belonging to a fitness center for 40 years that unless you're 5 minutes, 10 minutes away, you won't use it. Because when you forget your running shoes and have to turn back to get them, It's just too far a drive. And, you know, somebody mentioned about the children that go to Perry Sound. Well, I'm a teacher who works at a school and we have all kinds of programs, but it boils down to how are these children going to get home? And a 1 hour bus ride afterwards for the people of Whitestone is just not conducive. I just really don't feel that it will be used that much by the people of Whitestone, although it seems like a good idea. As I said, just from past experience, like it's just not going to be used. So I was wondering, is it possible for Whitestone, the people of Whitestone who choose to use it, to save their receipts and have the municipality reimburse them for their use of the facility? So a pay per use. I think that in the long run, that would be cheaper for the municipality. It's like some municipalities, instead of having a transit system, are using Uber to get their citizens around. Could you use this facility on a pay per use basis and then reimburse your citizens who do use it through their taxes?
Okay, well, thank you for your comment, Cheryl. That has been suggested, what you're talking about, and we will probably come back to that some more in a bit. But anyway, now we missed somebody whose phone number is 416-617-8575. Can I ask that person? You do have your hand up. Can you identify yourself, please, and go ahead? You need to unmute first, I guess. Yes, you do.
Hello, this is Ross Lister. I'm the 416-617-8575.
Go ahead, Ross.
I'm in a very interesting position. I own 2 properties in Whitestone, and also my wife owns one in Perry Sound. 30 years experience in the aquatics industry, with supplying them from design right up through to maintenance, replacement, everything that goes on with water for a pool. Looking at the numbers and from individuals I know who do design work and consultation with them on the side, the budget for something of this nature will be probably in around $34 to $41 million, not 32. To keep it at 32 will result in value engineering, which results in a reduction of the quality of the building because of the design dream at the beginning. These things will affect the quality of the building, the quality of the service, the ability to facilitate good programs for people. The facility is way understaffed for the estimates that have been provided. The service has been way underestimated. The fact that companies will have to travel, I hate to say it, from Southern Ontario for the level of needs that this facility will require for repair and maintenance. Those will be 4 hours travel time one way, and that will be billed out at $150 an hour. As to using the facility for aquatic, swim meets, it's a 4-lane shallow pool. Swimming teams don't use 4-lane shallow pools. They like 8-lane, 25-meter deep pools so that the divers can dive in and start and not be injured. I applaud what Michelle said about needing health and fitness and wellness in our community, and she listed off a whole bunch of things in Whitestone. This isn't in Whitestone. And as I believe it was Janice just said, I'm not going to drive half an hour to use a pool. I have fitness clubs half an hour from me right now. I joined one and I did exactly the model she said. Was a member for a year and stopped and never went. And we all see price of materials is going up. That 32 million is already out of the water. You say it's going to be capped at that price. How are you going to control it once you start and all these prices are out the window?
Okay, thank you for your comments, Ross. Next on the list, I have Scott Nash. Scott?
Yep, hopefully everybody can hear me all right.
We can.
All right, perfect. I just have a couple quick questions or really comments that I'm hoping council can answer or discuss during their discussion time. And I guess I'll start with what, if any, other municipalities have already advised that they are not in support of the wellness center? And what increase in cost percent would that have on Whitestone if other municipalities have already said that they're not interested? And my second point would be, how would cost be controlled post and during construction, should it be voted to be done or contributed by Whitestone, and has Whitestone thought about that? And at what point, if Whitestone was to be in favor of the pool wellness center, if the final numbers came in, and as others have spoken to, is over the $32 million by a substantial amount, which I'm guessing it would be, would Whitestone be able to opt out, or once you've opted in, are you in no matter what? And those would be the questions I'd just like discussed when you guys discuss it in an hour or two. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your questions. You want to wait for the answer then? Is that?
Well, yeah, you can talk about it now, or you can just talk about it during discussion time. I just wanted to raise my points and hope they'd be discussed at some point. That was all. Well,
I'll just answer your first question, which was pretty easy, which is who has indicated that they don't want to support the project. The answer is nobody. There are 4 municipalities. Well, sorry, 3 municipalities have already said they have basically approved the 8 recommendations that came from the WCPC without any sort of comment or reservation, other than, of course, they're contingent on receiving the ISIP funding. There is another municipality that is sort of working on looking at some of the details. Has 1 or 2 issues, but I would say is fully in support of the project. And then there are 3 like Whitestone that are in the process of coming up to a conclusion, and the other 2 are behind us in the process. So, but nobody has come and said, no, we're not going to participate. I can't predict what the committee would do if that were to happen. It would obviously go back to discussion by the WCPC as to how those shares of people who didn't participate would get redistributed. Anyway, we can. That's probably the only thing I could say at this stage of the game.
Thank you.
Next, we have Doug Hickey.
Can folks hear me, and can folks see me?
Not hear you, yes.
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah,
no.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
It's Councillor Lamb. I just want to make a couple of comments before Doug talks, if I could, because it seems to me we're asking questions and some of them aren't being answered. So if I just could quickly go back to the lady a couple calls ago in terms of the cost and can we subsidize people, in my mind, and I've kept careful track of the fors and against, and I'll talk to that later, but basically over the last 2 months, out of 400 or so people who have responded, there's about 60 who have said that they would use the facility. Now, of those 60, not every one of them are going to use it. And there may be a few people that will come in at the end, but, I'd be very surprised if we had 30 members from Whitestone that would fully use the facility. Now, when you talk about upfront costs of $527,000 and ongoing, yearly deficits of anywhere from 18,000 to some people say greater than 100,000, you got to do a cost benefit analysis a little bit and do the math. Like 30 into all that money or 40 into all that money is a lot of money to spend elsewhere. So that's the way I kind of look at it. I also want to thank Ross Lister for coming forward. He's an expert. He spent his lifetime in pools. He's had, I think he said he's built and operated 200 or 300 pools, and he lives in Farley's Road, and he's an expert in my mind in this. So people have to pay a lot of weight to what Mr. Lister is saying. And basically what he's saying is this is going to drain this area a lot of money, and you better be very cautious. So I just sort of wanted to make those two comments. Scott's question is a good one. I guess we can talk about it when we debate. But ongoing costs are a tremendous concern to a lot of people. And but thank you.
All right, Mr. Hickey.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can. We can see.
Okay. Many weeks ago, I had sent to the mayor and 4 councillors an alternate funding proposal, and I called it the hybrid funding model. And for the first part here, I want to talk to my fellow ratepayers and explain what it is. It's actually in correspondence to this meeting tonight, but essentially it's Whitestone provides an upfront contribution of $50,000, not $527, $50,000. Second part is we provide an ongoing amount of $5,000 per year to Parry Sound. And the third part is we come up with some kind of subsidy that we help out the actual Whitestone ratepayers who want to use the pool. Somehow we help pay them back for what they've spent. What I said was, this is a way we're still supporting the pool. If the pool exists, we're still supporting it. We're still a partner, still part of West Parry Sound. We don't get ostracized for backing out. And so I'm now going to address the next part through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gore Matthews. When I sent that proposal to the mayor and the 4 councillors, you actually responded to me, and I appreciated that. What you said was it wasn't time to consider an alternate funding model. Well, I'll tell you, I think now is the time. This is a compromise that will heal our town. It's divided. Councillor Lamb has mentioned 400 people have responded roughly, and 84% of them have said no. And although at the beginning of this meeting, the mayor and the councillors defined whether the pool is a want to have or a must to have, the people have spoken. It's not even a want to have. So we can't ignore them. So back to my point. There is a model. It's called the hybrid model. So my question to you, Councillor Gore Matthews, will you now consider the hybrid model? Would you support it? No. Will you support it?
Sure, I'm prepared to answer that question. Yeah, I noted when you posted online that I had answered your question regarding the hybrid model. And I'll also note that that email was back in the middle of November before we'd heard the pool proposal even. They hadn't even done their presentation to us. So if you read the whole email to everyone, what I also said in that email was that a hybrid could definitely be considered. You are just focusing on the first line where I said it wasn't time to consider it. And definitely tonight is an opportunity to discuss all the different options that could work. So
to play,
that answers your question.
It partially answered the question. Will you support a hybrid model?
Well, I will support discussing it. We're here to discuss all the different options to make a position that will work for everyone.
That's fair. That's fair. Thank you. I just hope that it gets the discussion. Bear in mind that the people have said, we don't want it, but this is a way, it's a compromise that kind of makes everything okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We have next Lawrence Gillette.
Mr. Mayor, could I respond to Mr. Hickey?
Well, yeah, please be brief. I just want to remind councillors that they're, you know, we only have a certain amount of time for this section of the meeting. We're eventually going to run out. So please be brief.
When people ask questions,
no, you can answer it. Just
thank you. And just quickly, I think we asked the citizens whether they were for or against this, and the vast majority are against our involvement in this. So in my opinion, when we go in to discuss this in when we come out of committee the whole, we have to put the question up front, are we going to financially support this or not, as a beginning part in terms of motions, right? And then if the answer is no, then obviously it's done. If the answer is yes, then we need to discuss how much we're going to support it. And I think the hybrid model or anything else then I guess comes into play. So that's the way that I see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gillette.
Yes, thank you very much. I guess I don't have a really prepared caller statement, but I do, you know, after listening to a few of the speakers already, one of the first good questions was is want versus need. And I definitely see this as a want. And not knowing all the data out there, but it sounds like if the majority of people don't want it, we shouldn't be going ahead with it. And I'd like to know how you're going to decide whether, you know, if you decide to go ahead with it, how could you justify that, knowing that the majority do not want to go ahead with this project? A couple other items to say, if you pass this upset limit, if the costs rise past what is projected, you said you might lose some features that were planned in it. Now we're not getting what you bargained for, and we're seen to be, you know, getting, you know, in effect ripped off. You know, if you said, okay, I'll fund this, and then you're not getting what you want. Going through the website, either the Whitestone website, through the question and answer and other, information about this pool, it seems like, it's what I get is that the project is trying to be pushed onto us. That's the feeling I get from what I read. It's everything is, this is good, this should go ahead. But in the meantime, I'm getting also reading a lot of, well, we don't know about this, we don't know about that. Questions are being asked and you don't have the answers. I feel that also this is a really personal decision for everybody, not, one that is going to benefit everybody if one way or the other. This is, everyone will have strong feelings about it, and this one decision is not going to suit other people. In the end, it sounds like it could be a huge disaster, and I'm against it. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list, I have Dana Labrie.
Sorry, I just had to unmute. All right, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Dana.
All right. So my name is Dana Labrie. I'm a permanent resident here in Whitestone. I moved here about 4 years ago. I am approaching, I'm not embarrassed about it, my 50th as of May 5th. So you kind of know the demographic I'm in. When I've polled people around me, it seems like a lot of people that have moved to the area that are in my age group are very much into sports, swimming, biking, whole bunch of activities, and a lot of them that are structured activities. I was a lifeguard. I learned first aid actually through swim classes and was a competitive swimmer pretty much my whole life up until about 15, 20 years ago. I received a 99.9% scholarship at a university that's right now basketball, NCAA, competing there right now, Division I school. So I guess my point there is there's a lot of jobs for kids. As a kid, I loved being around the pool. I sat in that lifeguard chair. I was able to get a scholarship. It paid for my university. It paid for my undergrad. It paid for my graduate school. I'm an MBA. So a lot of questions have come up about, you know, how can we retain kids and keep them in the Whitestone area? So I think the pool is really a great idea for kids. We talk about, you know, keeping crime rates down and all that good stuff too. Sports, definitely. There's been a lot of studies. I actually put some studies into a presentation that was sent to the committee. And studies have shown that kids that do enter competitive type groups, crime rates go down. So it's a fact. So where there's a need, and, you know, we talk about a need and, you know, what's a need and what's a maybe. Well, you know, if the future is our kids, we want to try to keep the kids in line too. I was a cottager in a place called Norway Bay, Quebec, and everybody from my great-grandfather to my mother would take swimming lessons at a pier that had 8 lanes. Unfortunately, we didn't have a pool, an indoor pool, but one of the great things about having, you know, just a team or competitions for the community is it really brought everybody together. Everybody was involved. Everybody put their kids through swimming. I don't know any cottager that did not send their kid to swimming. And we walked, parents walked with their kids to that pier.
You've got 30 minutes left, Dana.
Okay.
30 seconds, I'm sorry, not 30 minutes.
30 seconds, okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it really brings us together as a community. That's something we don't talk about a lot. Secondly, everybody keeps mentioning this is a pool project. We're forgetting that there's a proposed running track, there's basketball courts, there's a whole bunch of other facilities. And I think that, you know, just focusing on the fact that it's a pool, maybe understating the, you know, the impact. How much in taxes? I've made this point a few times in some boards. My home, basically, I would be paying the equivalent of a Big Mac meal and 2 beers. So it's kind of meant to, you know, raise eyebrows in that it's really not that much as far as the increase in taxes. A smaller home would be 2 beers.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to. You're kind of over your allotted time, Dana, but thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry to cut you off. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to go on record is I do not agree with the analysis of a hamburger or a beer or something. That's not right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next person on the list is Catherine Bowers. Catherine? Katharina Bowers, it says.
Maybe she's muted.
She is muted. I'm just hoping she can hear me.
She actually has no audio set up. You can tell beside her hand, just video.
You're right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. We will move on then. The next person on the list is Lauren King. Lauren?
Hello.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're on. You're on.
Okay. Thank you and good evening, Mayor. And to each of the councillors, Gore, Matthews, McEwen, Woods, and Lamb, good evening. Each of you have said you listen to your taxpayers. Would each of you tell me whether you are financially supportive, yes or no, of the Perry Sound Pool and Recreation Wellness proposal, and take 30 seconds each to tell me why. Thank you.
I guess I'm wondering if that's a question that should be left for the second part of the meeting, because it's going to, it's going to, that I'm sure that is going to become apparent in the conversation later on.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll answer. I'm not supportive. Thank you. And the reason I'm not supportive is because 84% of our people who have responded tell us they want to not financially get involved in this. And I believe I was put in office to serve the will of the people that elected me. Thank you.
Well, all right. I guess what we'll do is we'll just go around and then we'll get
Mr. Mayor, I'll say a couple words. I'm supportive. I think it's a regional / Whitestone and municipalities in West Prairie Sound initiative. I'm supportive to the tune that it came out to us as an ask, and I'm sure we'll see later that we work to that and try to achieve that goal. There have been many reasons for having a pool in Prairie Sound noted tonight, and I would reference back to those. So I'll leave it at that for now, and we'll get into more discussion later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think we'll get into this more, but I think we would be reckless not to support it with appropriate provisions to put checks and valves into the amount that we would be committed to. I think it is important that we work regionally to provide things to the community that we can't each afford by ourselves. And we will all get a benefit from creating things together.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Woods.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, this is a pretty easy answer. In the last election, I had 448 people put their faith in me that I would do right by them in the things that I promised them. And the one thing that I promised was I would listen to people, and I would carry myself accordingly if I ever got to the table. I also told everyone that didn't vote for me that I would also give them the same representation if I would ever get a chance to go to the table. And now that I am at that table, I'd like to assure everyone that I am most definitely listening. Personally, I would not financially support it. I never did vote in favor of the pool at all. I wasn't on council at the time, even when the money came across about entering into the study. And at that time, if I had been, I would have said no. I don't think it is feasible for Whitestone to get involved in that. There would be, a few people that are going to go use it. And I mean, that's fine and dandy. I know a lot of people that like to go swimming and they drive over to Bracebridge to do it. But, nobody has to pay extra tax dollars here. I feel that sum of money could go a lot farther here in Whitestone. As far as not partnering up with the rest of the municipalities, I don't see it that way. We're not necessarily being asked. We're being told what we need to put in order to be part of the group. If it was an ask, then they would be asking for a donation that we could afford. And I don't think we can afford the type of money that they're asking for.
Okay, thank you. Just to complete it, let me say I believe this is an important project for West Parry Sound, and I believe that we are part of West Parry Sound, and we have to take this seriously. I do support participation in the project. I think we have to do that in a way that recognizes our limited population and financial abilities and so on. But I think it would be a mistake for us to just walk away from it entirely. So again, we'll have lots more. I will have lots more to say about that later on. So anyway, thank you for your question. Let me move on to Deborah Randall Wood is next on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to add my video, but it doesn't look like I can, so I'll speak. So my name is Deborah Randall Wood. I'm a year-round resident here in beautiful Dunchurch, where we've lived for 12 years. I'm also a registered nurse, so you can expect me to be interested in wellness, and I am. But I'm not speaking here about that or my professional role. I'm speaking as a resident of Dunchurch. I drive into Parry Sound, as I said, every day for work, sometimes twice a day. And I can assure you that I will use the Wellness Center and plan on making full use of the activities that will be held there, the pool, but certainly not only the pool. I know that it says something about our community that we would put wellness as a priority amongst all the other priorities that I know you deal with. And I won't reiterate, but I support all the points made by Marcella Scholdice and Janice Bray. It matters to those of us that are here. It matters to those of us that were trusted here to recruit for positions, to join our community. Having this kind of facility is very, very important. So it's an investment into our future. I want us to be part of this initiative.
Mute, excuse me, Deborah. I'm going to ask, there are a couple of counselors, it looks like, who have microphones open. You must close your microphone unless you are speaking, unless you've been recognized by the chair. Councillor Lamb, mute your microphone, please. We can hear you talking in the background.
I wasn't talking.
Well, your microphone is picking up sounds. I can see it moving. Go ahead, Deborah. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Thank you, sir. So I know that you represent, all of you, the residents of Dunchurch. I know what people have said around the majority of what people have spoken. I hope that you'll listen to what might be a minority voice as well. I fully support council to be able to analyze and manage the finances, and I want you to know that I will support this financially. I am, and my family are happy to have our taxes go towards this. So thank you. I wish you well with your deliberations.
Okay, thank you very much, Deborah. Let's see who is next on the list. I believe this is I believe this is Robin Plum. Am I correct?
Yes. Hi, Mayor Comrie. It is.
Go ahead, Robin. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Let me start my camera. There we are. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Whitestone Council and Whitestone residents. Thanks for allowing me into your meeting this evening. I'm a Carling resident, and I grew up in the bush near Bancroft, if any of you know where that is. And I only mention that because I can tell you that I understand a lot of the challenges in rural communities, especially the communities around West Parry Sound. And I understand the need to make sure that the community focuses on health and wellness. Who can argue with that? It's an important part of any community, and it's something that should be invested in. The issue that I see with this pool proposal, though, and I've spent a few hundred hours looking into it now, is that there could be a severe adverse impact because of the cost of it. And you also have to balance out, I think, how many people are going to use that for that kind of investment. So how much wellness benefit are you getting out of it? And are there other alternatives that may make more sense financially, as well as through taking into account some pretty important factors about the nature of the community there, where you have, according to the last census, 19% is in the low income category. So most of those people probably can't afford $1,500 a year for a family membership. Plus, they probably can't also afford any kind of tax increase. And we're looking at something that's quite significant. So let me just take you through the information that I have, because I think it might be of value to you. So the information I provided you, Mr. Mayor, and others have provided you indicate that the construction costs and operating deficit of the facility could be multiple times higher than presented to council by the pool committee. The cost to build the facility appears to be understated by 4 to 6 million. Mr. Ross puts that at 8 million, and that's right out of the blocks then. 100% of the construction cost overruns must be paid by the municipalities because the grant is capped at 23 million, as you know. The operating deficit is more likely to be over $1.7 million per year and will likely increase because of declining membership revenue.
You have 30 seconds left, Robin.
Thank you. This is 6 times higher than was presented at council. Given these costs and the usage, which is probably not going to be much more than about 1,000 people. One of the area residents ran a health club up there for 20 years, Alex Herr. He puts the estimated membership at about 700 members. Given the cost and potential tax impact on the entire area, I urge you to respect the will of the Whitestone community and do the rest of West Prairie Sound a big favor by not supporting this proposal any further. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Anthony Knapp.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, fantastic. And good evening, Council. We are new owners in Whitestone. We bought last year, but we're not looking at this as just a seasonal home. We've got plans to eventually come here permanently as well. So everything that is going to happen in Whitestone obviously impacts us as well. With regard to increase in taxes, I don't even believe that's an issue. Whether it costs us a hamburger a year or costs us, a meal at Red Lobster a year, it doesn't really matter, because I think the taxes are fairly low in Whitestone, in my opinion. And if taxes are going to be levied, that's okay. More importantly to me is where these taxes are going. I've sat in a lot of the council meetings recently, and I keep hearing about that we don't have money to do certain projects. Nurses' stations being cut back because there's not enough money to do that. The roads that need to be improved, we don't have enough money to do that as well. So I'm not sure why, we putting money somewhere else to a project that's possibly going to have massive overruns when we cannot even do for ourselves right now. I definitely support a hybrid model. I don't support the full model as it's proposed right now. And I don't think I'm as smart as some of the people who have spoken tonight, but and with the analysis, but just a simple analysis in my mind, if we get 100 people from Whitestone using this facility, and that's probably a high number, that's going to be an initial cost of over $5,000 per person. Plus, we're probably going to end up with the overruns subsidizing them by $1,000 a year. Plus, they also have to pay a membership. I'm sure by doing it a hybrid model, I think it's going to benefit them and it's going to benefit us. I fully support a hybrid model. I definitely don't support it being funded the way it is right now. And somehow I feel that, and not a council, but rather the fact that the actual people running the project are not going to be as transparent about the cost, because it's in their interest to actually get it going. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I make a comment on that, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate your taking the time. Just to set it straight a little bit on the nursing station, it wasn't a money overrun kind of scenario that chased us to a smaller size nursing station. I'm on the nursing station committee, by the way. We didn't want to overdo the municipality and a major big money overrun on the nursing station. So when we started looking at square footage of building on flat ground, it was apparent that it was going to be more than the nursing station cared to take to the municipality as an ask for that facility. So it was taken back to the nursing station committee and to the West Prairie Sound Health Center and asked what, in fact, would you be able to work with if it was a smaller footprint on the ground. So it wasn't for lack of money for the project and lack of money from Whitestone. Because in essence, I think we're in better shape in Whitestone than we have in 6.5 years on council in terms of our money situation in doing projects. So I just wanted to make that comment on the square footage and what drove the cost back to kind of a mid-range, so we could go municipality Whitestone with a more modest and what we thought was an acceptable, or more acceptable contract price for a facility. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let me see. Next is Margie Salegi. Margie, are you there? Oh, yeah.
I'm here. I just wanted to go on and say hello, everyone. When you have 2 minutes, you become more succinct and less diplomatic. So I apologize in advance if my thoughts seemed rushed or perhaps a bit abrupt tonight, but here goes. I really like the thought of a pool complex in Parry Sound. It is clear that, however, that this proposal has become a source of division and upset in our Whitestone community. I've worked hard to seek answers and become informed. I've talked to many council members. I've dialogued with the municipal staff, and I've read through a plethora of public documentation available. And I personally have come to the conclusion that this project as it stands is fraught with insurmountable issues, including a proposal which is far more elaborate than simply an indoor pool and excessive for our population needs. The division of costs unduly burdens Whitestone's residential ratepayers, including seasonal folks, mostly seasonal folks, as an earlier person said, 75%. We don't have the industrial and other initiatives to defer the cost to anybody but our residential ratepayers. So that's who pays here. The board configuration would willingly give away control of all the financial obligations this municipality has for many years to come. All of this is for, in my opinion, a non-essential endeavor, albeit a lovely pool and wellness center 40 minutes away. If Whitestone has the financial and human resources to tackle issues, should they not be directed to basic and essential needs here within our community? The fellow that spoke just beside me is a man after my own heart. Those which are a priority for Whitestone ratepayers and are consistent with our own strategic plan, not somebody else's wish list. Isn't this why we actually pay municipal taxes to Whitestone? I can name a few. Roads that are well maintained and actually passable throughout the year, high-speed affordable internet to support education and work, think Starlink. So many of us here now have just gone on to beta testing, and it's essential. Building Whitestone's equitable tax base through development of vacant residential lands. There's a ton of it here in Parry Sound. However, that land has to be permitted and safe and have inspected structures. Planning initiatives for severances, ensuring protection of environmentally protected lands. And yes, culture and recreation initiatives within our community. They are abundant and there are many options. And either way you go, health and safety, health and wellness is so important. But either way, we still wouldn't have a pool anywhere close by, regardless of which way you go on this initiative. I could go on and give you another 5, but the Pool and Wellness Center in Parry Sound doesn't make my next 5 priorities either. I truly feel that the time has come to make a decision. There is simply too much time and too much resources being dedicated into this pool endeavor and not into and away from other more important, basic and essential things. There's too much friction, too much adversity. We all need to work together to make Whitestone a great place to live, work, and play. And so my question is, when can we expect a decision by council on whether they intend to pursue with the approval or rejection of the pool committee recommendations as they stand today? The time has come to move on and focus on Whitestone priorities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll leave it till later in the meeting to get you an answer to the question that you ended with, but I'm sure you'll come away with an answer by the time we're done. Next we have John Cochran. John, are you there? He's unmuted.
If he's on a headset, he might be double muted.
Hello, John. Okay, perhaps he's having some technical difficulties, but we'll come back to him if that's when he shows up. All right, on the screen here. Next, Robert Dreyer.
Maybe he's attending an important trial.
Yeah. Robert Dreyer.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to council. Just by way of introduction, my wife and I are permanent residents of Whitestone, and I also happen to be on the board of the Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce. But today I'm speaking as a citizen and ratepayer of Whitestone. And I want to share that while I like the idea of a pool in principle and all the benefits it can offer, I have several key concerns. The first one is in terms of the benefit statements. There's been a lot of general statements of benefit, including economic development, but I haven't seen any data that supports the idea of economic development for the Parry Sound area here, whether it's in terms of attracting more families, greater population, or what have you. So, and the benefits that I have seen seem to be based upon swimming competitions and the like that don't seem to have a lot of substance associated with them, or a lot of external studies that would support those cases. So from my point of view, I believe that the benefits have not been analyzed thoroughly enough to offset the cost analysis. The second point is earlier I had asked a question through email about how this fits into the strategy of Whitestone and our strategic plan. And I was referred to the strategy about collaborating with our sister municipalities. And I think that that's all well and good, but again, that's a general statement. To me, a true strategy and a true strategic analysis, something that I've done for 30 years, involves evaluating alternatives, such as the previous caller, the previous speaker has mentioned. There's a lot of alternatives. There's a lot of ways in which we could be spending our money that would directly benefit the ratepayers and the citizens of Whitestone. Whereas I think what we're talking about for the Pool and Wellness Center is mostly indirect benefit, if any at all. And the third thing I wanted to comment on is there's been some discussion during some of the council meetings that we have to present a unified front with the other municipalities so we don't scuttle the grant application. And my concern with that is that if the grant is eventually approved, it would be even more difficult, in my opinion, for Whitestone to then back out because we decided it wasn't for us. So I would agree that now is the time for a council to decide whether this is the right thing for our residents, not to let the process of the grant application influence your decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John Cochran, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can now, sir.
Oh, good.
Good evening.
Is my picture on there too?
It is.
Yeah. Jolly good. This is all about vision. I was on FedNor for 14 years, and a guy by the name of Leo Bernier, famous king of the north, wonderful man, he said, when you get government money, check it out, do all the arguing and moaning and groaning you want to do, and I'm enjoying the dialogue tonight. I think it's healthy. You don't have to personalize it. You can be at a distance, but quibbling about, how many people are going to be involved, how many angels are going to be dancing on the head of the pin. Nonsensical. It's way too early in the dialogue for that. I'm the vice chair of the Near North District School Board. And I can tell you, when I'm sitting at the board table, I don't wait for a consensus of the people who elected me to make my decisions at the board level. I make my decisions based on good information, good financial information, and the best needs of the community. COVID has put a whole new spin on West Parry Sound, Muskoka, all the way up to Sudbury. People are exiting Toronto, all these hives of COVID deaths. They're coming up here, they're spending megabucks, they're building beautiful cottages and homes. They need to have facilities. I came down here 7 years ago from Sudbury. I was shocked by the fact that you had a 71-year-old high school with your bloody chemistry labs in the basement. Unheard of in Sudbury. 71 years. It's shocking. I don't understand why people put up with this stuff. You're paying bloody good taxes. It's your money. So have a good discussion, but have some vision. And if you as a board member are honestly thinking, oh, well, every time I have to make a difficult decision, I'm gonna ask the people that voted for me, that's pretty bloody sad. That is really pathetic. Have some vision. As Leo Bernier said to me, if it's not crooked, and if it is viable, take the government's money and run. And that was at a time when we had a $70 million budget. We spent all kinds of money in Muskoka, Parry Sound, all over the north. If we had an attitude that, oh my God, how many angels can dance on the head of the pin, we wouldn't have spent a damn penny. We would have left the money all in Ottawa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, who is next? I see somebody with the phone number 905-259-9776. Could you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Okay, you're muted. Oh, no, sorry. That person has dropped off the list. So next we have David Weaver. David.
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right, I'll see if I can get up the video even. So, thank you very much. There I am. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be involved in this community discussion. It's obviously very important that we do that, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak my voice. We started off with a question about needs versus wants. And left out the possibility that it's something that some people don't want at all. And I want to speak to that. I've been coming up to a Washkash seasonal resident for over 60 years. And so I have a long time love relationship with the lake and the community. And I see zero benefit for 75% of the residents of Whitestone. That I believe that that feeling goes well beyond seasonal residents, that there's quite a few permanent residents who feel the same way. And I think that it's foolish to ignore those people. I really appreciate the comments made by Councillors Lamb and Wood. They said that they represented all the people. And I think that certainly that's something that those of us who are involved in the election process are interested in hearing. And they'll certainly continue to have the votes of those people to whom they're listening and representing. The issue about the expenditures, you've heard a lot about the technical details. It strikes me from that as an engineer and a person who's been around a long time, that the cost overrun sort, it's going to be very expensive for everybody, and it's going to be the benefit to the extremely small number. And at the same time, we're competing for things that ought to be needs for the municipality of Whitestone. The issue of the library, of the internet, the nursing station, roads, and so forth. These are essential in requirements for people who live there, and also for the tourists who come up there in the wintertime to enjoy the lakes in the area during the winter season. And so these are all things that we need. And if we're giving them short shrift to support things that by and large most people don't need, I believe that's a serious error. So anyway, that's my view.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, David. All right. Howie Johnson is next. Dave, you can you're muted now. You can drop your video too. Thanks. Howie Johnson, are you there? Okay, well, since while we're waiting for him, let's go on to Kevin Williamson.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors and fellow taxpayers. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a good place to get seated here. I have 3 points for everyone. The first point is, as the president of the Magnetawan Pioneer Association, I represent cottagers on 5 lakes, Miskaway, Bolger, Kashigaba, Portage Bay, and Whites Lake. And to this point, we've not had anybody negative come forward to say that they're opposed. The second point is, I believe this is a YMCA facility, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, George?
Well, certainly the intention of the pool committee was that the YMCA would probably be chosen as the operator of it. And the location of it is actually that is proposed is the site of the current YMCA on Perry Sound Drive. Yeah, but that's
okay.
That's your question. Yeah.
So the second point I wanted to make is that as a seasonal resident in Kashigaba Lake, as a YMCA member here in Niagara, I'm entitled to attend to any YMCA anywhere. If I paid my dues in St. Catharines, then I can attend a Perry Sound facility. And when talking about the facility itself, the third point I want to make is that the very professional people that are involved in managing a wellness center like that can actually save your life. And I'm a survivor of a manager at the YMCA in St. Catharines having had a heart attack there, and the defibrillator was used. So my point on this is having a facility and a professional organization when you're getting older to be getting healthy and doing fitness. It's also important that you can be looked after in many different ways. So those are the 3 points that I'd like to make. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Calvin. Judith Moore is next. I think. Judith? Okay, that since we're not getting a response, I will move on to Dr. John Brennan.
Am I on?
You're on.
Okay. My wife actually just came down and said that she had her hand up, but it wasn't getting, it didn't stay up or something like that. So I don't know if there's an issue at our end or her end, but I'm here anyways. So a number of you know me, but I wanted to make fairly quick comments if I could on kind of 3 levels. Firstly, as a resident, and secondly, as an engineer, and thirdly, as a doctor. And so I actually am a resident of Wawashkesh, and probably the only physician that has lived in Whitestone and commuted to Parry Sound on a regular basis. But as a resident, you know, my whole life was around pools, and swam competitively, and was a lifeguard, and was part of university swimming, and continued on with recreational swimming through my whole adult career, literally until I came to Whitestone. And so as a resident, to use it, I would definitely use it. I don't know who the 84% of people were that were polled about whether they would use it, but I personally wasn't, to my knowledge. As an engineer, I have to say that it is unbelievable the quality of the feedback that we've had, both for and against here. And it's extremely robust and intelligent questions and feedback. And to that extent, I don't actually envy the role of council in this, because I don't think that there's a clear choice in terms of cost perspective. And so I have to rely on the benefit perspective. And that's why I would weigh in as a physician. I know that seeing elderly patients and seeing people with disabilities and having them struggle with ways to rehabilitate and to participate in activities that they can do that aren't weight bearing, it's invaluable to have aquatic facilities. It's invaluable for children to have the ability to learn swimming. And I think I'd just like to finish with echoing the comments of, I don't know, I think it was Marcella Scholdice, where I keep hearing at times that people say it's justification, that I'm not going to use this, so I shouldn't have to pay for it. Well, I've willingly paid education taxes here without children in school. I've willingly paid for the nursing station. In fact, I donated a lot of money and donated a lot of equipment. I've never used it. I am quite happy that there's a library and that things are happening there. I don't use it. I don't think that the metric that council can use is that everything that is used has to be completely sustained by the users. That's not the metric that we use. We have to do something that gives us the right thing to do. I actually think, in terms of serving the population, the right thing to do is to have the pool. The cost side of it, obviously you have to put in guardrails that it's responsible to participate. And that's all that I would request. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor Cromie, I'm unmuted now.
Yes, I see that you've come on. So we'll go back to you. And go ahead, please, Judith.
Well, I'd like to say that we built our cottage on Whitestone Lake in 1960. And as a late teenager and adult, and even though we don't live nearby, we spend 4.5 months on Whitestone Lake every summer. I am inclined to agree with what John just said, since we don't use the nursing station, or we use the library when my mother was alive for speaking books. But other than that, we pretty well just stay at the cottage. However, I think we need to look at the alternate proposal, since when you look at Whitestone and where our finances are, we're buying a Cadillac when maybe a Ford would do. And therefore, when I see that we have $11 million of road work that needs to be done, a nursing station that needs to be built, that depends on a lot of fundraising. And I worked for 10 years at bingo every Wednesday night to raise money for the nursing station over the years. I think we need to start thinking more like a Ford and less like a Cadillac, because I really don't think Whitestone can afford the proposal that Parry Sound has put forward. Plus, after if we move ahead, we don't even have a voting right that would enable us to influence anything. We have one vote to their 3. So my point would be that unless we go in like a Ford, then I'm dead set against funding this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Judith. Next, we have Margaret Daley Plouffe.
No.
And
good evening. How are you?
Good,
Mayor Crombie and fellow councillors. That's wonderful. First of all, I am very supportive of the hybrid model, establishing a monetary limit to our contribution. I'm totally against just going in and saying, yes, we will participate with no boundaries. So it's going to be a wellness center and a pool. Okay, let's look at the pool aspect of it. You say, okay, people want swimming lessons. Well, on the lake, they're offered every summer by the Lions Club. I've been a cottager here since 1987. My 3 children went through the swimming lessons. So therefore, if we need more swimming lessons, let the community hire another swimming instructor. Let's make 2 sessions of lessons and not just 6 weeks. Let's take the whole 2 months to make swimming lessons available. Let's make swimming lessons for adults. Again, the pool. When you go to a hotel, you always want a pool. Do you use a pool? Probably not. But there are hotels in Parry Sound with indoor pools or resorts with indoor pools. Has anything been established, or have they been approached to maybe coordinate some, aquasize for adults in the community, etc.? Has this venue ever been talked about? Next, we go to keeping kids active, which is great. Okay, so your kid's in school all day long in Whitestone, you come home, and then you're going to drive 30 minutes into Parry Sound in the evening, in the snow, possibly. The other alternative is, what about the Recreation Committee in Whitestone? It used to be, and it's sometimes in some years, it's been very, very active. This would give things for the children to do. Having a pool with 4 lanes is not going to produce a lot of jobs for students. Wellness center, let's get on the wellness center. So what's happening at the wellness center? Okay, so aquatics. So we've got the aquatics at the hotel pools we're going to try to get in. But what about fitness classes? We have the library that has meeting rooms. We have a school that has a gym. We have the Dundome for outside fitness. We have the community center for indoor fitness. We could do programs there. We could offer programs to the people in the community for exactly what they wanted. They wouldn't have to drive 30 minutes. Nurses station, definitely. Roads, definitely, are things that this township, this municipality needs to think about putting our money towards. Anyway, again, I support the hybrid model where we have a cap on and control of our monetary contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Comrie, it's Lynn Brennan. Could you put me on the list, please? I can't use the reaction. Somehow it's not working to be put on the list.
Okay, we'll actually get to you next. Well, next to you. There's one more person, one person ahead of you.
She can go. It's okay.
No, it's okay. I'll go last.
And
Thanks.
this is it's Ryan. I don't know your last name, Ryan, but
Yep, Ryan Harkins.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Comrie, Mayor Comrie, I guess this falls to you. One of the things I've watched unfold as a result of this discussion, and I say it falls to you as the chair, the community has become broken. I've seen the vile back and forth comments, and I don't really believe at the end of it, it's because people do or do not want a pool. I think what I'm hearing and seeing is people want answers. They want this meeting 3 months ago. And so, and I'm guessing at the time frame, but so thank you for taking it now. But just as a, you know, I've seen what it's done to the community, and that's going to need time to repair. It is pitting neighbor versus neighbor. The other thing to consider is I'm not an athlete. I'm not a doctor. I did work at a YMCA growing up in a small town, and we went through a process like this much before the internet existed. So sessions like this weren't possible. There was a lot of euphoria around building a facility that people will come to. This was a town of Fort Erie, in case you want to reference it. And what ends up happening is my uncle actually ran the facility. He was the guy. And the situation for that town at the time, which was 25,000, the cost to run the facility far outweighed the revenue that ever came in. And I don't think we spent enough time today talking about that. We've talked about the upfront costs, we've talked about the operating costs. But if this building were to actually survive 10 years from now, 15 years from now, all of that equipment will need to be replaced. And what ended up happening in Fort Erie is they sold the building, they closed it. And my fear is that's exactly what will happen here. There just isn't the draw to support a facility of that size. I have kids. I'd love to take them swimming in the winter when I come up. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. That takes us then to Lynn Brennan. I don't know where you went on the list, but I'm guessing you're here. You are here somewhere. There we go. Thank you. All right.
So my name is Lynn Brennan. We have had property in Whitestone since 2000. I have to say I've been concerned with the quote of 84% of respondents being interpreted as the majority of property owners against the pool. There wasn't a significant response rate to be statistically significant. Therefore, I would hope that it wouldn't be quoted as representing property owners, but as a percentage of responders instead. For me, it's a given that pool facilities benefit all demographics. Otherwise, why do all these pool facilities continue to operate? And there are a lot in the province. Why do all these municipalities keep them open, except for the one we just heard? The con is the cost to provide our community with such a facility. But how do you measure only the costs? When you can't measure the beneficial savings, it needs to be considered as an equation. As a retired teacher, it is undisputed that smaller class sizes are beneficial. But come budget time, only the cost of the number of extra teachers and the classroom spaces, etc., get calculated. That's only one side of the equation. Missing is a societal savings, of how many more students graduate, how many more go on to earn a higher wage with higher education. So some governments look at one side of the equation and cut costs, while others know there's more to the story than black and red marks on a ledger. It's the same with the pool facility. Costs are only one side of the equation that need to be considered. Secondly, as a ratepayer, as it's been mentioned before, Whitestone Council has made many decisions without my input to expand facilities that I have had not personally benefited from. I've never used the library nor the nursing station, but as a ratepayer, I see the benefits to others. Everyone pays provincial taxes for school boards. As a society, that is what we do. As a region, we depend upon each other in order to provide more services than individual municipalities can support. I benefited from Springwater Township recognizing it would never be able to provide pool recreation facilities, so it signed an agreement with Barrie. Thirdly, the best we can do is to estimate the usage based on the best criteria possible. My sister lives on the east end of Wasaga Beach, the catchment for Wasaga Y, but instead, at the age of 70, drives to Midlands Y, rather than driving through Wasaga traffic. I personally have been a consistent user of pool facilities, do groceries, other errands to make it worthwhile. I'm at a loss as to how so many other municipalities can get such facilities, but we can't. Boards of Education propose to close schools based on population predictions, only to have the school repopulate with young families and need portables. We cannot expect definitive answers. Is there not a compromise the municipality can agree to? As I'm aware that a 6% contribution to joint community projects has been noted as fair previously. I'm sure all of the other partners in this project will not want to see it go forward without the safety net of the government grant, adequate fundraising, and cost containment. We should never underestimate the value of cooperation and collaboration with our partners. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I have two more people on the speakers list, and we have been at this now for about, well, over 2 hours. So I'm going to give those two speakers an opportunity, and then I think we'll close this portion of the meeting and go into our regular council session where we can discuss further. So Robert Morrison, I think you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
So just, I'll keep it really short. I know we've been at this a long time. I am in favor of the pool. I am sympathetic to the cost increase to the taxes and the concerns that come around that. As a family that moved up 3 years ago, we were from Mississauga. We were loving the area, but obviously struck severely by the lack of amenities available to us. So seeing this pool come in, I think will allow for, I guess, a lot of other young families to consider this area as well. I think echoing what Marcella Scholdeis said and agreeing with her comments, I believe that this could be the right way to go. My one question that I have, and I understand that it may be too late for the budgets and stuff like that, but like the gentleman who said he was on the board of the school near North District School Board, we have a 70-year-old high school that is in terrible condition, and my 15-year-old goes there all the time. Is there no way to lean on the school boards to do a combination facility? Is there no way to sort of redo the plans for the high school that's going to be coming in as a mega school and include some of these recreational facilities? That'll really help with the budget, and it will help with the access for the kids because they'll already be there. Coming from Mississauga, there are a lot of high schools that get built with full recreation and pool facilities as part of just their basic infrastructure. So anyways, thank you very much for hosting the meeting. I'll leave it to you, and yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Just in response to that last question, I should tell you, and maybe I mean, I could, I could give the opportunity, I suppose, for John Cochran to respond if he thinks I'm telling you anything that's not correct. But this possibility of trying to trying to combine the pool and recreation facility with the new mega school in Parry Sound was discussed on several occasions by the WCPC. And the answer that we got from the school board was that they were moving ahead with their own plan to rebuild that school. It is, the good news is it is being rebuilt, and I believe that tenders for design have recently been issued. But we were told at the time that there was no opportunity to co-locate these facilities. And I agree with the questioner that that would have been nice. And I know that several of the people on the WCPC, several of the representatives really wanted to see that happen and argued strongly for it. But unfortunately, the school board had moved ahead with their plans, which they had been working on for several years prior to the pool proposal, and it simply was not possible to do that. So that is the, I regret to say, is the answer we got to that question.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment on that?
Go ahead.
Mr. Morrison. I was chair of the Westbury Sound Board for 2 terms and vice chair before that, and spent 19 years on the Westbury Sound School Board. So I've done a bit of my own personal research into student benefits of having a wellness pool center. We have 2,100 students approximately in Westbury Sound. That includes the First Nations separate school and the public school system. So there is a tremendous number of kids and students who could vastly benefit from a facility, and closer to Parry Sound probably the better, because that's where the biggest catchment area is, and it's the hub of all these schools. I guess the bottom line is that Parry Sound looked at schools having pools some years ago, and it just never has been a fit with budgets. And budget's always been a draw on the school system big time, and pools just didn't fit into the scheme of things. I'm sure they're very, very welcoming of a pool in the catchment area, and do support the students attending this type of facility. So I thank Mr. Cochran for coming in this evening.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess my final note is that if the new facility is constructed where the existing Y is, that's virtually walking distance from the new super school or mega school, or whatever the correct term is for the building that is going to be rebuilt on the site of the existing Parry Sound High School. Okay, so the last person that I have on the list is Ed Can. We can see you, Ed. Do you want to go ahead?
Try that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Having slight technical difficulties. As I said, I've been a resident of my wife and I've been residents of Whitestone for I think about 15 years now, and we've enjoyed it very much. We love the place, and we have no intention of going anywhere else. And I told my wife that when I leave the house, I'll be in a wooden box. So I'm attached to this area. I do have a finance background, and that probably has become evident by some of the posts that I've made. And I do realize that money is not the be all and end all of it, but it has to be considered. And when I first started looking at this at this project, I realized the incredibly poor presentation that was made. The numbers are incorrect. There was no projections of what might happen in the next 10 years. It seemed to be extremely biased towards Parry Sound. I can see no reason why the outside municipalities should pay 75% of hooking the sewage system to the proposed site. There's absolutely no reason for it. Parry Sound will recover that money. And there's lots of things that are in there. There's some tremendous omissions like capital replacement costs. There's nothing in there. It's hidden. Because what will happen is it will be billed every 6 months to the municipality. And that's a huge hit. As I said, money is not the be all and end all of it. And I tried to look at of what this pool project will do for Whitestone. And I'll be quite honest, my allegiance is to Whitestone, as it should be. And I have severe reservations as to what the cost down the road, in its present format, what the costs will be down the road. They will be enormous. And when you look at what's been happening in the world with COVID, it's turned our world upside down. You look at the amount of money that the governments are paying out. The projected deficit this year for the feds is $400 billion. For the province of Ontario, $60 billion. And that money has to be paid back some way. And the only way they'll get it back is through taxes. So that should have been considered in the projections of what it's going to cost us down the road. I'm not against a pool, believe you me. I believe that a pool would be an added feature for this area. But the cost and the presentation just doesn't make any sense. And if you look at the raw numbers, if let's assume 10 people do become full members, the cost of their membership to Whitestone will be in excess of $50,000. And I just see no logic in that whatsoever. But there's a couple of other things I'd like to mention. The first thing is that, and I'd like to ask Joe Lamb to answer this, is that when you look at it from a purely objective view, that to get a proposal past council, in other words, for a motion to be approved, it takes 60%, right? So there's 2 + 2 plus the third one, that's 60%. And we're looking at this project here, and people say it's not an accurate, that 400 is not an accurate representation, but it's what we've got. And in today's environment, people participating in votes is maybe 40%, 50%, whatever. But we're talking
You're over
about
your, excuse me, Mr. Can, you're over your time. If you could wrap up, please.
Now I'm wasting my time.
He
Go
can
ahead.
use the balance of my time that I didn't use. I had 2 minutes I didn't use.
Well, no, it doesn't actually work that way. I didn't mean that you couldn't finish what you were saying, but you can't you can't keep going on. That's indefinitely. That's all. Anyway, I think
I'd like to hear it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd like to hear it as well,
It-
since I think he probably is the one person that really understands how bad this deal is.
Yeah, who put him on mute?
Well, when he is over time, that's that is what happened. If you can finish in about another 30 seconds or so, Ed, I'm willing to let you do that, but I can't let you go on for like 5 minutes. I'm sorry. It's not fair to the other people who have.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Can you hear him? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that what I was saying about the fact that the 60% is the required vote to pass a motion before council, which is the way it works on majority basis. And when you look at what we're talking about here, is that 84 to 85% of people do not wish to participate, and I don't see how council can turn a blind eye to that. I really don't. And I would like Councillor Lamb to respond to that. Thank you.
I'm
Well-
unmuted, am I?
I think we're going to get into the discussion of this later on, folks. Why don't we Councillor Lamb can answer that in his remarks later on. I really want to move to the next part of the meeting so that we don't run out of time for council's discussion. So thank you very much
Excuse me,
to
Mr. Mayor,
everybody who
I will
participated.
answer that when I make my remarks. I will answer
Sure.
when we get out of committee of the whole.
Sure. Thank you. So thank you to everyone who's participated. I appreciate the thoughtful and courteous way that the comments have been delivered, and that's so. And thank you for taking your time. What I would like to do now is to get a motion to reconvene into the regular meeting, please. 8:53 is the time, I believe.
I'll so move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by.
I'll second Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. I will assume everyone is in favor. That allows us to move back into regular session. Now, just before we start, I believe that folks are aware by now that it was not our intention to put the 8 motions that came from the pool committee that you saw back in September, back in November, December, not intended to just put those all before council tonight. And I think the recognition is that some of them are involve details that probably still have to be sorted out, as you've heard already. But what we wanted to do was to try to get a sense from council of whether or not council wishes to support this proposal in what I would describe as a tangible financial way. And so there is, and I crafted it, so I'm going to take responsibility for it, but there is a motion that I would like to see if we can get a mover and seconder to. And I'm going to read it to you because I suspect that some of the folks I know the councilors have all seen it. I don't know that anybody, I don't know that the ratepayers on the call will have seen it. It says this: whereas council considers the public pool and wellness center to be an important amenity for the economic and social well-being of residents of West Parry Sound, including residents of Whitestone, and whereas council recognizes that Whitestone residents are the furthest distance from the proposed pool and wellness center and may therefore be less likely to use the facility than other West Parry Sound residents, and whereas the municipality of Whitestone has the smallest population and lowest tax base of the 7 West Parry Sound municipalities, therefore be it resolved that number 1, the municipality of Whitestone agrees to contribute 6.1% of the difference between 1, the total construction cost of the facility, and 2, the sum of the ISIP funding and, sorry, I've got to go to another page here. Didn't fit on one page, I apologize. Sorry, the difference between the sum of the total construction cost of the facility on the one hand, and the sum of the ISIP funding and any capital contribution through fundraising on the other hand, to a maximum total amount of $527,040 as a one-time contribution. And 2, the municipality of Whitestone further agrees to contribute annually towards any operating deficit of the facility a maximum amount of $18,316, commencing in the first year of the facility's operation and continuing for 10 years thereafter, with the maximum amount to be increased annually by the Consumer Price Index. And 3, that these commitments be contingent upon A, receipt of the full amount of the requested ISIP funding towards construction of the proposed West Parry Sound Pool and Wellness Center, and B, execution of an agreement acceptable to council between the municipality and the proposed Joint Municipal Services Board, which would address concerns about equitable representation of all participating municipalities in decision-making. And C, a review of the operating model and proposed operating costs for the facility by management consultants with expertise in such reviews to be completed prior to final design. Is there a mover for that motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to move it, but can I just have a comment on what you just said, or hopefully that's not inappropriate?
Well, strictly speaking, we should have something, since we've now had a committee of the whole, we should have a motion in front of us to. But
just very quickly, sir, Mr. Mayor, that's a conclusion that you wrote that we got at 1:20 this afternoon. That's the, do not pass go conclusion, that I think you want. I don't think that to put that type of motion on the table for, to up, down, done, finished, thank you, everyone, have a good night, is the right way to go. We ask our citizens whether they were for or against financially contributing to the pool. And I think that we need to have a simple vote of council. Are we for or are we against financially contributing to the pool in Parry Sound? And then depending on the decision there, if it's no, it's finished. If it's yes, we can then discuss all kinds of different options, which could include a hybrid model or whatever. But I just don't feel this motion, is the proper way to go in fairness to the citizens. I think it's in some way, and I don't mean it against you, Mr. Mayor, but it's a little bit insulting.
Well, so what motion do you want to put on the floor then?
I want to put
your motion on the floor.
Thank you. I would put the motion on the table. Does the Council of Whitestone wish to economically or wish to financially contribute to a pool and wellness center in Parry Sound? Yes or no? And put it to a recorded vote.
Well, sorry, you have the motion. Yeah, you can do that. The motion has to be that the Council of Parry Sound wishes to contribute financially to the proposed pool and wellness center.
The what? But maybe I heard you wrong.
You're the Council of Whitestone.
Council of Whitestone. Yeah. You know what I'm getting at, and I think
I know what you're getting at. We have to have. I have to record a motion. So
yeah, I think everyone knows the way this vote is going to go.
The Council of the Municipality of Whitestone wishes to support financially the construction and operation of the proposed, I'll just call it the Pool and Wellness Center, okay, for everybody knows what we're talking about, I think. All right, does someone wish to make that motion?
Could you read it out again, sir?
That the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone wishes to support financially the construction and operation of the proposed Pool and Wellness Center.
Mr. Mayor, could you elaborate on that a little bit? I'm a little confused how we've gone from the exact same thing in different wording to support,
well,
with conditions added, which was your original resolution.
Well, I think that Councillor, I think that what Councillor Lamb is wanting to see is if the council decides that we do not wish to support it, then we don't have to have any further discussion. So if this motion this motion is defeated, then we have withdrawn from support, and we don't need to talk about anything more. That seems to be what he wants to get out of the way. So
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I might, you've put the construction and operating costs. I think those are two different things. I just want to put do we wish to financially contribute to the proposed pool and wellness center in Parry Sound? We may decide later if this is a yes, that, we give to the construction, but not to the operating, or vice versa, or whatever. So I just want to, I mean, we owe that to our citizens.
Mr. Mayor, we're giving that to our citizens by your original proposal. I'm very confused with what Mr. Loud's trying to do here. We can still take this for discussion purposes and talk about a hybrid or whatever other scenarios we want to talk about without supporting or not supporting. If we support, does that mean we're totally in support of the ask from Parry Sound? That could be end of story.
Well, do you want to?
I would agree with
that. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. To Councillor Lamb, do you wish to have a straw vote as to whether we are willing to support the? If you had made a motion, then I would have taken it. But
yeah, I think I've made the motion. I think that council should just decide: do we want to financially contribute to a pool and wellness center in Parry Sound?
All right, contribute.
Period.
Contribute to. All right, so proposed pool and wellness center in Parry Sound. All right. So I'm going to read it again. That the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone wishes to contribute to a proposed pool and wellness center in Parry Sound. Is there
Perfect.
a mover for that? There needs to be a mover for that motion.
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
Well, I'll second that for discussion purposes, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Woods.
All right, thank you. Now, do you simply want to test the motion at this point, before we go into further discussion?
I'd like to talk about it if I could.
Well, discussion is allowed, certainly. Go ahead.
Does anyone else want to comment first?
Go ahead. I'll follow up.
Pardon, Councillor McEwen, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll follow up on your discussion, on your comments. Thank you.
Okay. This is kind of an easy decision for me. Clearly a pool is a want and it's not a need. Good quality health care and the nurses station and things like that are a need. Expansion of the nurses station, as I said, is a need. Good quality roads are a need. And last November, we asked all our ratepayers whether they were for or against Whitestone participating in the pool complex. We did an extensive 2-page mailout, which I thought related all the relevant information, including both direct costs and indirect costs, such as the Y membership fees. In my opinion, it was a fair and balanced mailout, and it was sent out to every ratepayer. The current tally, according to Councillor Woods and I, is that 378 people have responded to that, of which 318 or 84% are against our financial involvement in the pool, and 60 ratepayers, or 16%, are in favor of our financial involvement. Our other observation was that it's not a cottager versus a local response. The community as a whole is solidly for the people that expressed an opinion are solidly against our involvement in the pool. In my opinion, council colleagues, the entire debate should be over given this result, but sadly it's not. I have to ask myself, how many no's does it take for us to listen to our ratepayers? I am not confident that the results that were, I'm confident that if the results were the opposite, this issue would have been finalized weeks ago. A response of 400 people is enormous in a community of our size in the middle of the winter that we sent out to people. As far as I'm concerned, this is not a personal decision of individual councillors. I and every councillor in Whitestone were elected to serve the very people who put us in office. My loyalties are to the people of Whitestone and not the people of Parry Sound. Let me explain to you why I am against this project from two perspectives, and why I think this project is terribly flawed from a Parry Sound perspective and a Whitestone perspective. Parry Sound seems to think that if you build it, they will come. In my opinion, this is not where their money should be spent. Development and prosperity comes from attracting industry and jobs to an area, by having adequate housing, and by having a highly skilled workforce to fill jobs. It also comes from a well laid out strategic plan, which I do not feel that Parry Sound has. But instead, in my opinion, it relies on a haphazard approach to development. Does anyone really think that by constructing this complex, that someone is going to say, let's move to Parry Sound, they have a pool? Pools come as a result of growth and prosperity and industry and jobs, not as a catalyst for all these things. Many people in Parry Sound say that they've been waiting decades for a pool. Isn't it odd that at no point did the Council of Parry Sound or any other municipality put any money away in reserves to fund this type of facility? Nor did they conduct any fundraising. They only talk of future fundraising. Interestingly, our library in Whitestone fundraised $100,000 towards the recent renovation and expansion. In my opinion, Parry Sound is trying to pull a fast one on us. They get the vast majority of the resultant economic development and benefits, and they're only responsible for 25% of the ongoing losses. They will prosper from increased property taxes, development charges, etc., which I'm sure they will not share with other municipalities. I wonder if Parry Sound will even charge taxes on the Y property as they have done in the past. To top it all off, Parry Sound will get water and sewer services to the north end of town at a projected cost of around $3.5 million for 25 cents on the dollar. The surrounding municipalities will pay 75% of the freight. What a sweet deal for Parry Sound. Some might say that if you do not contribute to this pool, that you will somehow be blackballed at all levels of government for future funding, and it could lead to amalgamation. I do not see that in that way. In fact, I see just the opposite. This project is an example of amalgamation. We will end up with 1 vote out of 12. We will not be able to get out of our agreement once we sign it, and we potentially expose ourselves financially to future improvements and additions to the property. I would never sign the joint services agreement. In fact, I would run as far away as I could from it. Let's talk about the costs. $32 million for a 49,000 square foot building is all our money. The 24 million grant is not being shipped up from the United States. It's coming from our provincial and federal coffers. The annual operating deficit of 300,000 is greatly underestimated, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many, many smart people. Many expert people have projected annual deficits that could be 5 or 6 times as much. Robin Plum spoke tonight, 300 hours, talked about membership levels. They want 2,200, and their model is 2,215 members in Parry Sound, of a catchment area of about 15 to 17,000. It's unachievable. The operating costs are higher by 500,000 than they've projected. Even Mayor Hopkins, and I have his report, by the way, I've asked for it for months, but I have his report. He projected that the pool and on pools all across Ontario, the average operating cost is $40 a square foot times 49,000 square feet is 1.9 million. The model is 1.4 million. There's another 500,000. There is not enough money in terms of capital replenishment that someone talked about. It's not in there. You got a budget for that too. Ed Lister talked, he's got 35, he lives on Farley's Road. He's got 35 years experience in building and operating pools. He thinks this is a bad situation. And we should listen to people like that. Alex Herr, who ran a gym in Parry Sound for 15 years, says we'll be lucky to get 900 to 1,000 members. The man's got 15 years experience in the business. Ed Can, a senior executive, has done a lot of hard work and sent letters to people. And I believe that he's got some very, very valid points. Jim Wilson didn't speak tonight, but he's a past president of a major pool complex in Toronto. Our mayor has called some of these people self-appointed experts. I do not see it that way. I see them as concerned professionals with valuable experience, warning us of the grave dangers associated with the current proposal. I think that this pool complex has the potential of being a big white elephant in Parry Sound within 10 years. All that one needs to do is look at the dozens and dozens of Ys currently closing from coast to coast in our country. For example, Niagara Falls and St. Catharines, which have a catchment area of well over 100,000 people. These Ys are closing because they're not financially viable, even before COVID. Beyond the capital costs and operating deficits, the cost of a Y membership can be as high as $1,500 for a family of 4. We need to consider the impact of COVID-19. People are not returning to pool complexes. They're buying fitness equipment for personal use at home or joining smaller facilities at half the price. The only way that a pool has the outside chance of surviving is if it's grouped on one property with such things as an arena, a high school, a senior center, a library, all on one campus, working with each other and in cooperation with one another. And I don't see this type of planning at Parry Sound. Now let's look at it from a standpoint of Whitestone. This clearly is not a want, and this clearly is a want, and it's by very few people, 60. Now there may be more, but 60 out of nearly 400. It's not a need. We're now faced from Whitestone's standpoint, and I've been around for 14 years, from a capital, we have other competing priorities. We talked about expanding the nurses station. 20 years ago, we gave $1 million to the hospital in Parry Sound. That was a very, very valuable investment from Whitestone's standpoint. And now we need to do the same and do whatever we can do in terms of expanding the nurses station. Someone talked about the internet connectivity. That's enormous. You can't tell me that internet connectivity and whatever we can do, it doesn't trump a pool any day of the week. Employee space, we need to rationalize that. Our roads need study that came in said that 26% of our gravel roads are in poor condition. They need and should have, over the next number of years, $11 million investment. We're only budgeting $900,000 over the next 10 years. We need a new home for the thrift shop. Maple Island, through handicap accessibility, will not work for us within 2 or 3 years. If the grant from the federal and provincial governments is received, I think it's reasonable to say that when the federal government comes out with a COVID-19 recovery bill to stimulate growth and employment, that they could very well give less grants to the Parry Sound area, because they could take the perspective that they've already given $24 million in funding to the area. I can remember in 2008, I was on council They came out, they had a recovery program. We got $1 million to do the bunny trail. I would hate to lose $1 million to put into our roads because 24 million was given to the Perry Sound area. And this project causes minimal economic benefit for Whitestone. We need to be spending our money in Whitestone. We're 40 or 50 kilometers away, and many people will not use the pool. In my opinion, of the 60 who have expressed support for this project, I'd be surprised if we had 30 full-time members at the Y. Do the math. Some on council may tell you that this is not a referendum. That, in my opinion, is an excuse to say they do not want to follow what 84% of you have told us. Some may say that a 400-person sample is not big enough. I think it is a very large sample. Some on council will tell you that we can do it all. Don't be fooled. Anytime the council spends money, it's coming out of your pockets, not from some money tree. Finally, I wonder if this meeting was being held at the community center or the fairgrounds, and 378 people were in attendance, and the mayor asked them to stand up if they do not support this project, and 318 people stood up. Who on council could, in good conscience and looking them straight in the eye, vote to spend this money when clearly there is an overwhelming message that the ratepayers do not support this? I think not. Zoom calls where mics are muted and can blind some to taxpayer outrage. Council colleagues, we need to conclude this pool discussion tonight. We cannot continue to hold our community in abeyance over our ratepayers' heads any longer. I cannot tell you how to vote, but in my opinion, this proposal as presented is not in the best interest of our community, and I will not be supportive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else, please.
I'll go next.
Mr. Mayor, if I could go next. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bill.
Councilor McKeown. All right. I didn't know if we'd have a chance to read a statement, but I've prepared one as well. So I'll just go over it if I can have a few minutes of everyone's time.
Go ahead, please.
I heard a lot from everyone about what I think, and I'd like an opportunity to speak. So if you're expecting some type of Chicken Little type response from myself, you're not going to get it. I don't overreact or have emotional responses to issues. I'm going to be methodical and analytical and take my time learning about an issue. I think people need to be heard by a neutral voice, which I have tried to be. I've tried to be professional and not create an environment that creates conflict among ratepayers and council. I think that tonight John Cochran summed this up. It's about a vision. We may not all have the same vision for this community, but it doesn't mean that we all can't move forward from this in a positive manner. I've received a lot of questions from ratepayers with regards to what I'm doing with the input that we received from the mail-in, the email pool at whitestone.ca. I haven't read the numbers. We've had quite a few discussions about how many positives and negatives they are. The value to me were the comments and the analysis that our ratepayers provided. Their combined expertise and analyzing the proposal is the value. And I've written down, as I've read each comment, about what everyone is concerned about. Which I can't find that page now. Too many pages. So I won't list them all because I think we've summarized them up pretty good talking tonight. But so my first point that I wanted to go on to is there are undeniable benefits economically to the Wellness Center. I've had discussions with the labor market group, just asking them what they've seen in similar communities sized as ours, and that has undeniably attracted newcomers to the community as well as provided a great service to the residents. I spoke with the former economic development officer of the town of Huntsville. Pre-pool, they were losing industry. After the pool, they've gained new business. And something that he didn't expect was the eco sport tourism that has boosted the hospitality industry since it all began. I've also can speak from a personal experience that while on the CEDC, one of the major things that has detracted people from expanding in their business in this area has included lack of internet and amenities for businesses, for their employees. I recognize that our seasonal population will not likely get use of the facility, but a long-term payment period will minimize the tax implications. We've seen the numbers worked up, and it is a minimal amount that people can expect to pay over a 15-year period. Our job as council is to provide a variety of services and amenities to the area. We then pick and choose as ratepayers what we use. I think we will be surprised in this evolution after COVID that we're going to see our seasonal residents here for longer periods of time around the year, and they're able to work from home, work from their cottages. They're going to be homeschooling, and they're all going to take advantage of having these type of facilities used in the area. Something I've seen in my dental office is that a low number of employers offer benefits to their employees in this area. I think with some creative marketing, I can see potential in this area for the pool committee to be able to market sponsoring employees instead of having traditional benefits as a way of promoting the use of the facility. Speaking of the swimming lessons at Dunchurch, they are a long tradition. I myself learned to swim through the program. It doesn't replace proper lessons in a pool. More advanced knowledge could be attained. Lessons won't be dependent on weather or the ability to access them for parents that work. We could create a new generation of swim instructors. Currently, we rely on seasonal instructors, or if it is a local student, they have to travel to Bracebridge to gain the knowledge to be able to even teach the swimming lessons. I've heard mention of the 3 pools that are available in our area in Parry Sound. These are hotel pools. They're not fitness facilities. They don't offer the same benefits as having a dedicated wellness center pool facility. Someone mentioned the local gym owner that weighed in on what they thought that the membership would be. I used to belong to that gym in the late 90s. I don't think it's a comparable type facility. That gym wasn't even accessible to everyone. You had to go upstairs to get to it. It's a totally different scenario that we're talking about now, where we're going to have a facility that's going to be accessed by people of all ages and abilities to get into the facility. It's the 2021, not the late 90s when I used to belong to it. I think something that we need to acknowledge is that we do need to attract a qualified workforce to the community. They are aging out faster than we can replace them. Obviously, other factors need to occur to continue to attract a workforce, but a wellness center is a start. Housing is an issue. What we have before us is a great funding opportunity to jumpstart our reinvention. Not everyone will be sold automatically by the things that are drawn to us in the area. We're already loving it here. We need to convince other people that this is a great place to live and work as well. I've heard people mention that we can create retention bonuses for attracting professionals. That doesn't always work. For Sunridge, we've been without a family doctor for 2 years now, and they have a great bonus. Whatever doctor would come into that area would have an automatic practice to step into, but they've been offering financial bonuses and whatnot, and it's just not enough to attract physicians into the area. Another comment that I would like to make is that my daughter's going to bed, sorry. The other comment that I'd like to make is that this municipality's council doesn't even contribute to the physicians fund that I know Donald Sanderson has made a presentation numerous times over the years trying to get this council to support a fund that will attract doctors to this area, and it doesn't happen. I know our thrift store actually stepped up to the plate a few years ago when a member happened to be at one of those presentations and thought it was appalling that we're not even participating in trying to draw physicians into this area. This is a way that we could participate. Another thing I'd like to mention is that I think it's untrue that we're neglecting our needs in Whitestone. Yes, we have to cap what we're going to donate towards this. We don't have an endless supply of money, and we do have our own needs that need to be met, but we're not going to be neglecting our needs either if we come up with some solution to contribute to this project. I believe that the capital expense is a lot of money, but is something that we need. We're not cutting back the nursing station expansion. The committee decided it was a duplication of space. A meeting room was omitted off the plans, which doesn't jeopardize the services that would be offered at the nursing station. The meeting room was just constructed at the library, and the community center is available as well. Also, we've just got our roads needs study, which we've heard mentioned about. We have lots of needs to fix up our roads, etc. And our 2021 budget has agreed to every ask that our roads department put forward. We do have the new roads study to guide us through the next 10 years. It won't all occur due to cost, but also due to time and staffing. Our new public works manager has an excellent 5-year plan outlined. If we support him, we'll make some excellent progress over the next few years, but we also have to be recognizant of the amount of work that they can actually get completed as well. A final thought would be, we are unable, any of us, including Parry Sound, to afford such a facility on our own or any of the other municipalities. This is similar in my mind to Belvedere Heights. We are paying a yearly levy to subsidize the nursing home, which, by the way, had only one resident from Whitestone at the last meeting I attended pre-COVID. Does that mean we shouldn't support Belvedere Heights? Of course not. It's a valuable asset to the community, and I believe that the wellness center could be as well. I think it's an example of the mutual participation that benefits all communities. And it's noteworthy that we also share a rep on that committee. We don't have a full representation as in this board as well. So these are just some of the positive things that I want to outline that have to do with the wellness center. I feel like we focus on all the negativity. That doesn't mean that we aren't going to be responsible in how we choose to support it, but there are positives to this this facility that I think we need to take into account as well. And that's me.
I'm sorry. I had muted my mic like I'm asking everybody else to do when they're not speaking. Thank you, Councillor Gorham Matthews. Councillor McEwen, I believe you're next.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have prepared notes also. I'd hoped we wouldn't be getting into this much passion, if you will. Mr. Mayor, as visionary leaders in the community, I urge council to support participation in the Wellness Pool Center. Benefits outvalue the costs by far, in my opinion. Just as a note for listeners, I don't do council business on social media, as they're totally aware. I'm sure I frustrated a lot of people by not weighing in and getting involved and getting slapped in the face and everything else that goes with it. I answered probably 100 calls. Anyone and everyone's welcome to my telephone. I will talk to anyone at any time, and that has happened. They were some very good and some not so good conversations at times, however. And just as another note before I get into a few comments here, it really did bother me to see all the divisiveness that came out of, especially from Facebook and chat and not just on those medias, but throughout the community. This has been just an earth-shattering event. I've never seen anything like it in my 43 years living in this particular location. I go back to a lot farther than that. I married my wife 50 years ago from Dunchurch, so we certainly do have roots back here. being a little philosophical, I was born in Parry Sound, raised in McKellar as a teenager, went to Toronto for my college and West University education. I worked with a couple of multinationals in Toronto for 9 years before moving back up to our cottage on Maple Island, and then build our home here where I presently reside on Dunchurch Estates Road. Parry Sound is certainly the hub of our area, West Parry Sound. Whitestone residents work throughout West Parry Sound, Carling Industrial Park. Surprising how many people drive all the way from Dunchurch up to there. I worked there for 2 years myself, 45-minute drive from door to door. They work at the airport, which people drive by up and down the 400, mega industrial center, DSAB, many from up in our area, and West Parry Sound Health Center. Some 30 people between McKellar and Whitestone residents work at the West Parry Sound Health Center. And in Parry Sound Government Services, they've historically and traditionally been very big players and employers for this area. MNR, MTO, Canadian Coast Guard, Hydro One I was fortunate to work for, Bell Canada, and the list goes on. Many Whitestone employees in our own little community here. We have them from Seguin, we have them from McDougall, we have employees from Parry Sound and from Agninawa. You know, it's a continuous collaboration, if you will, throughout the district. Pool Wellness Center is a huge undertaking for West Parry Sound. We had an active citizen group that worked extremely hard to weigh the options available to build the West Parry Sound facility. They looked at government grants. They included West Parry Sound municipalities and an ability to share on a sharing basis to include population and assessment, distances, school populations, cost per municipalities on a graduated basis. Yes, Parry Sound is a diverse area with a huge cottage country population supported by significant yearly based folks who work their hearts out for the whole population, many who reside in Whitestone. The Wellness Pool Center is very much more than a Parry Sound facility. It is a long needed center working on and dreamed of by many for a very long time, including Whitestonians. Now the Wellness Pool Center has significant grants at this time, and it's making it a potential reality. It's taken a long time. It's been tried 3 or 4 times and never worked. And this is the one time that they can take a real good shot at it. Hopefully it can come to fruition. There's a lot of work to be done yet. Whitestone has an opportunity to show support and solidarity to neighboring municipalities. Whitestone support, in my opinion, is a progressive step toward and to help create a brand new facility. Near the town of Parry Sound, working with neighbors, the YMCA offers the best possible alternate for a working partner and working staff. Mr. Mayor, to continue, I greatly respect and appreciate the opinions and comments of ratepayers and the time they've taken to make them in all sincerity. Mr. Mayor, Council is in a position to consider the value of a pool wellness center for the municipality of Whitestone and also the greater West Parry Sound area. The value of a wellness pool center at Parry Sound goes way beyond the town of Parry Sound's want. Although the municipality of Whitestone has many more seasonal properties, our permanent property base is very dependent on Parry Sound for employment, as I previously mentioned, and year-round family recreation needs fit with Parry Sound and area needs. With respect to number of residential to the number of residents response, total tax bills, 1,928, including year-round, seasonal, and commercial. Our total response, as Councillor Lamb mentioned, my numbers are slightly less than his, but of the 1928, significant representation was noted by the response from ratepayers, both for and against. I do respect that each ratepayer is entitled to personal comments. The Wellness Pool Center project is an opportunity for West Prairie Sound communities to unite for a long overdue center, in my view. A West Prairie Sound Center will undoubtedly support very large area needs. The chance to partner with the Y is an enormous opportunity, in my opinion. A ready-to-go team to run the facility. They're the team that runs a lot of recreation throughout Muskoka and Simcoe. The Wellness and Pool Center is a huge project for West Prairie Sound, as I'd mentioned. An active municipal steering committee and citizen group has worked extremely hard to weigh the options and variables. I believe I touched on that earlier. I won't bore you on that one. A couple of what I feel are misconceptions. Taxes will not necessarily increase due to this short-term financing and operational cost of and participation in this pool. Presently, we just paid off a loan of $900,000, which is $120,000 a year. So that gives us some wiggle room in our budget from 2020 to 2021. Wellness and Pool Complex, $44,600 per year, including annual fees, annual fee of $18,300. If we put those numbers out front, we've got about $8 to $8.20 per $100,000 of assessment that people will pay on their taxes. I don't see that we're encumbering too many people in a very significant way by applying those numbers on our tax base. And with frugal and careful planning, we can keep the tax base pretty reasonable in this municipality. An ever missing Wellness Pool Center, and Councillor Gorham Matthews alluded to this, as in neighboring towns, is a significant need to attract future development in West Prairie Sound. In my opinion, an investment in the Wellness Pool Center is well within Whitestone's means. The ratepayers don't necessarily have to be encumbered by serious, heavy tax burden. I think I will be just reiterating a few things that other people, like Councillor Gorham Matthews, has said. When I rounded up the numbers, looking at what it would cost a person with an average year-round residence in Whitestone, incidentally, the average year-round assessment base is $153,000 for a year-round residence. It would be about $12 a year. If I look at it for a seasonal resident, with the average assessment for a seasonal resident being $275,000 a year, it would cost them $22 per year. So I think this is just a little transparency so people can see what the numbers are and they can work with the numbers. I will leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. I had more notes. I could go on forever. I've got quotations. I've got all kinds of things that came from ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Councillor Woods, do you have some comments you wish to make?
I don't know if there's anything left to say with what my three colleagues have said. To me, from the onset of this I mean, I said it earlier in the meeting. If somebody would ask me if I thought it would be a good idea for Whitestone to get involved, even for the exploration of, you know, what might happen if we could actually achieve this, I would have said no. That's not going to change. That's my personal view, right? And that would have been my personal view. But I listened to everybody, and I've talked to so many people since this decision has been discussed. It's mind-boggling. I've met people that I didn't know existed, and I've spent hours and hours on the phone with people. I've been stopped in the dump. I go to drop off a bag of garbage, and I'm there for 3 hours talking to people. And the general consensus that I've received from everyone except for specifically 3 people that I've spoke to was, no, we do not want to be part of this. And I mean, there's a lot of pros to it. Don't get me wrong. Do I think Perry Sound should have a pool? I absolutely do. Personally, I think it's absolutely pathetic that Perry Sound hasn't had a pool. It doesn't have to be an Olympic-sized swimming pool, but they should have at least had a community pool. If there's been such a desire for so many years, how is it that no one in any of these councils that were supposed to be representatives of their ratepayers have started a fund or a fundraising campaign to put money aside if this was truly a want for everybody in the Perry Sound area? It blows my mind. It really does. You want something? No problem. You start putting money aside in order to achieve that want that you have. Okay, I've heard multiple people say, you know, it's going to be great for all of the kids in the area, Brian. You know, I've had members of council tell me that, Brian, this is going to be fantastic for you. You got 2 young boys at home. To me, this entire pool project, even thinking about it, it's going to be something that's for those and such as those that it can afford to go and use it, and those that can afford the time to go and use it. I mean, me personally, if I get home from work, say 5 o'clock, 5:30, pick my kids up from, say, the after-school program, there's not a chance I'm going to be taking my kids into Perry Sound, especially in the winter, to go swimming. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I mean, I could see how people want this. A lot of people want it. Those that are closer to it, they might want it more. And that makes sense because they're very close to it. But the reality is, the size of complex that we're talking about building, this entire region could not sustain it. It's not possible. It's going to cost us all an absolute insane amount of money for years and years to come. The governance structure, to me, that is a textbook plan for restructuring towards amalgamation. And if anybody thinks that that's a great idea, I'm never going to think that way. Not a chance. We should not get into any agreement if you know, it's apparent. I mean, it's almost a guarantee that we are going to financially contribute to the project, but it should be a one-time donation fee as far as I'm concerned. One-time donation fee, and that's it. The amount of money that is left in that proposal that Perry Sound should be picking up in total, there's $3.5 million worth of infrastructure to get it down there. Perry Sound and people that work for Perry Sound and representatives on multiple councils in the area stand to make a heck of a lot of money once that infrastructure gets put in on the north end of town. And they're going to do it on the taxpayers' dime. To say we're going to go all in on a project, even if we're going to put caps. I mean, these caps, if we sign that agreement, these caps are going to be null and void. If every municipality decides to put a cap on their contributions towards the annual operating expenses, and it comes back where we are as short as, say, Mayor Hopkins or Mr. Plum are saying, you know, 1.7, where's the money going to come from? Who's going to pick up the tab? Somebody has to pick it up. And it's the taxpayers that are going to pick it up, regardless of which township it is. We're talking about spending people's money, okay? These are the taxpayers of Whitestone. That's who I work for. That's who I'm representing. I'm not representing Perry Sound. I'm not representing McKellar or McDougall. None of the other municipalities. I'm a representative of Whitestone. I'm supposed to listen to my ratepayers and see what they think. The majority of people that I've spoke to have said absolutely not. How can any of us turn a deaf ear on the people that pay us? If this was a regular job, you would be fired for not listening to your boss. We're not any smarter than anybody else in this township. And to think that we're smarter or we know better, or to tell people, you know, you should want this and this is why, that is completely wrong. We can't do that to people. This is their money. It's the taxpayers' township. We are supposed to listen to them, full stop. The ratepayers here, the bulk majority of them, even the ones who haven't, you know, sent their emails in, people that I've spoke to, not a chance. I don't want in on this. -3, because there was definitely 3 people that I had very long conversations with. One of them signed on to the call tonight, and I appreciate why people would want it. But financially, it does not make sense to get into something like this. And then we want to turn it over to the why. You know, the question was asked during the traveling roadshow, how many people from Whitestone were members at the Y? And they couldn't give us an answer. I could probably tell you that the number was none. To think that somebody in the middle of January is going to take their life in their hands, basically, on some days and drive down 124 in a snowstorm to go swimming, to me, I don't see it. I really don't. And I've heard lots of people, you know, well, when I moved up into this area, I noticed the lack of things to do. You can't do anything. You know, I don't do the outdoor winter sports. I don't like the cold. I don't snowmobile. I don't fish. My only question is, why would you move to a place like this then? You know, you come up here, it's a fantastic place. There are fantastic people that I've met here. I've met so many people here that have offered help, more help than I ever got when I lived my entire life basically in Hamilton. I don't know. And this whole pool question has definitely driven a wedge in this community. The one thing that I detest, and I spoke to this in the all candidates meeting, is the divisible wedge. You know, the seasonal versus the year-round resident. And to me, there should be no difference. You're a taxpayer. What you say matters. And the way we're supposed to make decisions as council members is to listen to our taxpayers and make a decision based on what the majority have told us. That's what we're supposed to do. If this gets passed through, it's going to do us a lot more harm than good in the long run. You know, every kid around here, the 50 kids in Whitestone School are going to directly benefit from it. How are they going to get there? How is a single mom in Perry Sound supposed to get from one end of town to the other end of town, pushing a stroller in the middle of the winter to go to a pool swimming? She can't. There's a lot of people low income in this entire region. They just don't have the money that a lot of people have. Most people, even in the low income bracket, they might have one car between mom and dad, and then somebody staying home to watch the kids because it's, you know, the non-existent daycare system that we have up here. Somebody has to stay home with their kids. The other parent has to go to work. And with the price you're getting paid at most of the jobs in this region, you're working very long hours to make ends meet nowadays. I don't understand how anybody thinks that this is the be-all, end-all. This is the only thing that is going to help Perry Sound. It's absolutely nuts to me. I could go on for days and days on this, but I'm not going to. But what I am going to say is I am here to listen to the ratepayers of Whitestone and make a decision based on what those people have told me. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Mr. Mayor, are you with us?
Sorry, I apologize. That's the problem with these. When I know people are going to speak for a while, I mute my mic, so you can't hear my chair squeaking or anything. But So anyway, what I was saying is I'm just watching the clock here. We're coming up to 10 o'clock, which is our curfew. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a few comments of my own. I didn't think this is what we were going to do first, but since everybody's getting all of the counselors are getting their thoughts off fine at the outset, that's I think that's a good use of our time. So I'm going to add a few comments of my own, and then I'm going to put this this question that was moved at the beginning to a vote, and then we'll see what we go from there. But perhaps we'll have to continue some of the discussion on Monday. I was hoping we wouldn't have to, but anyway. Let me tell you how I see this situation. The people of Canada, all 38 million of them, or however many there are these days, have basically offered through this program to assist the residents of West Parry Sound with a fairly expensive capital project. And you've heard discussion already about how expensive it is to build particularly aquatic facilities of this sort. They're not cheap. So why did they do that? Well, they did that for a couple of reasons. First of all, they recognized the fact that this was not a project which could be undertaken by the 7 municipalities on their own with their own resources. And I've heard a lot of comments about, Parry Sound tonight. People think, gee, they should have been able to afford this. They've got all these big box stores, and they've got all the tourists, the 30,000 islands and so on, shopping there and everything. Their tax base is not all that high. They have a lot of properties that are tax exempt. They are essentially a small town. The industrial base surrounds them, and so on. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Nobody was. What is that?
Sorry to interrupt you. I just got a text that Brian lost the call, so he can't hear what you're saying right now. If you could just give him a minute to get back on the.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Call.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I didn't realize he disappeared on us.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait for a sec.
We need to invest in better internet for our counselors so they can attend the meetings.
Unfortunately, Councillor Woods and I have had quite a few conversations about this. He has the best that is currently available at his location, which is not that far from Dunchurch and from, but unfortunately he's for some reason or other he's not getting good service.
I can remember 15 years ago doing a bunch of presentations in my car sitting outside the Whitestone Library.
Well, yeah, it's a broadband is a, I guess I can digress for a sec. Broadband is a, if you ask me personally, what do I think our number one problem is in Whitestone, our number one challenge, and the same in McKellar, it is broadband internet. And the only thing that I can tell you that is something that we are working on and making a lot of noise on, but unfortunately it's not a problem that we can solve as a municipality. The costs of doing what we want are not what we want. The costs of doing what we need far exceed the cost of, say, this particular project we're talking about tonight. So they are only
No, I
going
would
to happen.
agree.
They are only going to happen with the infusion of significant amounts of money from levels of government. And you heard, if you listened to the Ontario budget the other day, another promise, not the first one we've heard for a while, but it will be very interesting to see how this unfolds. I don't see that. I just want to say I don't see that as something that Whitestone is going to put into its budget and say, if we budget some money for this, we'll get internet. We're kind of at the mercy of the federal and provincial government, and we have to figure out how to get an application for some of the funding that is available. So anyway, Councillor Woods, are you?
I don't see him back on.
I am back on, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, all right. Thank
Can you
you.
hear me now? Took me a couple of tries.
Sorry about that. I paused and we went on a little digression for a minute. So you really haven't missed anything. I was starting to say, why do we have this opportunity to get a chunk of money, which is nominally supposed to be around just under 3/4 of the cost of constructing the proposed facility. So the second reason was that it was a joint submission of 7 area municipalities. And I mean, this raises a point that we probably need to have some discussion around, because obviously there's different views of that. But as some of you know what the process is for this, that the application went to the Ontario Ministry of Infrastructure, which is the agent for the ISIT program in Ontario, and they had the choice of recommending it or not. And they did recommend it to the federal government. And they did not recommend some other projects in some other communities, and you may have heard a bit about that. One of the reasons we did get recommended is because there were 7 area municipalities and 2 First Nations, in fact, who supported the application. And so group applications almost always get a few extra points in their evaluation. And I guess the third significant factor is they accepted the argument that West Parry Sound is in a deficit position with respect to this kind of facility. This is the major facility that we do not have, and none of the hotel pools meet the requirements that we have. The existing Y, people talk about that. That was never designed to be a fitness center, even a fitness center, never mind a wellness center or anything else. And it got used as meeting space for various things and for daycare and so on. But it was a totally unsuitable facility, and it never attracted any number of people. So you're right in saying that. And it wasn't designed for that purpose. So in any case, they recognized that we were at a disadvantage relative to the folks on the eastern side. And as I mentioned to somebody before, there are, if you go up the Highway 11 corridor, every major center from Barrie to North Bay has an aquatic facility in it by itself or with other recreational facilities in it. So anyway, this looked like a really good opportunity for West Parry Sound. And as you can appreciate, the opportunity came relatively quickly. It's been talked about for 20 years. There have been other projects attempting to get something going on this that haven't materialized for various reasons. But many of us see this as a once in a lifetime opportunity to get such a facility. I think if we do not get it, what will happen is that we will be for certainly for my foreseeable lifetime, we will be at a disadvantage relative to the communities to the east of us that are closer. It is recognized as an economic driver, regardless of what you may have heard. So, you know, that's kind of how we got started. But the way I kind of look at this is on the basis of a risk analysis. So what are the risks? Because people have pointed out various things. The risks to the project are that somehow or other the cost of construction will be higher for various reasons, just the passage of time since the proposal was made, increasing costs of material and labor, all these various other things. So if you look in terms of what we were asked originally, we were asked to take a fixed percentage of the shortfall in the capital cost between what we would get from the government and what it would actually cost. And of course, that could be offset by fundraising, which hasn't started yet because there's been no announcement of a grant. So there's also a risk, and I see this candidly as a bigger risk. The risk is that the operating deficit of the facility is going to be larger than was, and you know, the $300,000 that was suggested in the submission. So, you know, and obviously that if we were to accept an open-ended commitment to those things, it could end up becoming a financial burden on us, and it could end up being a financial burden on other municipalities who are participating, as some of you have pointed out. So what's the solution? Well, first of all, what is the solution to those risks? Well, I would say that the solution is more due diligence by people who do this professionally and whose opinions can be relied on, and then you take that and you use it to inform the detailed design of the facility, and that might result in some rescoping. And I see that there is more recognition of that as a way forward going forward. There are also some, so I guess the question is, well, what if Whitestone just said, look, this whole thing is too rich for our blood, and a lot of people don't seem to see any value in it and don't want their money spent on it and so on. So what if we just walk away? Well, I have to tell you that there are risks to that too. The risks are that, first of all, folks at the provincial political level have gone to bat for us for this project, and they will be embarrassed, and that's not a good thing when we are asking those same people, and the federal government too, asking them to help us with other projects such as broadband, such as our nursing station, etc. We're looking at getting money for these things from higher levels of government, because typically that's what we do in this community. We do some fundraising, but we apply for grants to get money. Our taxpayers often do not end up paying the bulk of the cost of these major capital projects. So we have to weigh those risks. And so what can we do about it? Well, as you know, some of the municipalities that are closer to Parry Sound have sort of made what I would call unbounded commitments. They have, shall we say, written blank checks. They said, yep, we'll pay whatever our percentage is, which is higher than ours, what they asked of us, but we'll pay it whatever that percentage is of whatever the amount is that's needed. I guess they figure that they have other ways of raising that money. And some of them, in fact, do. Some of them have much larger assessment bases than we do, and the impact on their ratepayers is going to be relatively small. Whitestone, however, is not in that situation. And so I think that we have to consider carefully what we can pay, how the best way to pay it is, and what sort of conditions we would put on it to address some of the concerns that you know have been around for a while and that you heard about tonight. You know, representation on the services board and various other things of that sort. So anyway, I'm watching the clock and seeing that the time is slipping away here. I think what I'll do is I'll stop there. I do have more things that I could mention, but I would really like to call the question on the motion that is in front of us. And that question was the very simple motion. It didn't get into the details of how much and how you would do it, but it's that the council of the municipality of Whitestone wishes to financially contribute to a proposed pool, I'm sorry, I'll take the word, I should have crossed the word proposed, that to a pool and wellness center in Parry Sound. That was moved by Councillor Lamb and seconded by Councillor Woods. And if our clerk is still with us, I'm going to ask her to record the vote, please. Madam Clerk, are you, oh, there I see her. She's muted still, but.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was in trouble unmuting. Councillor Gore Matthews.
Yes.
Councillor Lamb.
Councillor Lamb is muted too.
Oh.
Host, can you unmute Councillor Lamb? Maybe he's.
I think I unmuted myself. Did I?
Yes, you're good to go. Thank you.
Okay, no.
Councillor McEwen.
Yes.
Councillor Woods.
No.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Thank you. All right, folks, it seems to me that we have a lot of other discussion to move into. We've already gone over curfew by a few minutes. I'm wondering, we either have to have a motion to extend, or we have to, and it's only going to give us about 20 minutes or so, or we have to get into a more detailed discussion of how we do what we just said we were going to do on when we meet again on Monday.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
I really think that, 15 or 20 minutes is not enough time to complete this. We can do it Monday, and I guess the decision will be how much we'll support it and what the terms will be. So hopefully we can do it Monday. I would like to have it finished tonight, but I really don't think it can be done in 15 minutes, but and do it justice. But that's just my thoughts.
Anybody else?
I concur with Councillor Lamb. I think we've used up too much energy tonight already, and to try to get into another motion on this and do it justice is just way too much to discuss, looking at possibilities of hybrids and everything else that go with the discussion. So I'd put it off.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then what I would suggest we do is that we go to the, we'll finish this meeting. All we have left, I believe, is a confirming bylaw and a motion to adjourn, and we'll pick it up on Monday night. And we will continue in regular session. There won't be a committee of the whole, just for those of you who are still on the phone. And once again, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for hanging in and for contributing to the discussion tonight. I really was impressed with the quality of it. I want to say that. But when we come back on Monday, we have it'll be a regular meeting, a regular council meeting. We'll have we won't be having committee of the whole. We'll be dealing also with some other budget issues that were left over from the last meeting. So anyway, could I get a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw, please?
Could I ask a question? Will you be having a Zoom meeting on Monday? They seem to work better because you're able to control it with the mute. Like I was impressed with that, except the numbers.
I'm in favor of, personally, I'm in favor of Zoom meetings, but I have to tell you that the council said, well, we're only going to use them. I don't know. What's your opinion? You want a Zoom meeting?
I'm fine with that.
It works fine for me.
We want a Zoom meeting.
Who said what? I'm okay. I'm okay with the Zoom meeting. That's fine.
All right. All right. So I guess it'll be a Zoom meeting then. There just seems to be the consensus. So confirming bylaw, please.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, I think Councillor McEwen got there first. Any controversy about the confirming bylaw? We only passed one motion.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not. And who would like to move adjournment?
I will.
Councillor Gorham Matthews has got, and then seconded by, was that Councillor Woods?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you very much. So be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 10:14 p.m. until the next scheduled meeting on Monday, March 29th, 21 at 6:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair. And I can assure you I will not be calling you in the meantime. You got the rest of you got tomorrow and the weekend off. So thank you very much, everybody. And
good night.
Pick it up on Monday. Good night.
Disappointing.
Night, folks.